In a grand hall, a voice announces the next hero, Tsurugi Sumireiji. Tsurugi dismisses the thought of being a handsome, princely hero. In a warm memory, he proudly declares his magnificent meal is complete. A close-up shows the delicious spread of food he has expertly prepared. His classmates are stunned by his incredible, unexpected culinary talent. The home economics classroom is a lively, cheerful place for him. He awkwardly deflects praise, joking that his only friends are online. A girl's voice exclaims, "Wow," catching him completely by surprise. Ichinos, a popular classmate, smiles warmly, praising his amazing skill. Tsurugi is shocked that the beautiful Ichinos is talking to him. She laughs, admitting she was told to just watch because she's clumsy. A sudden announcement for a teacher crackles over the school speakers. Ichino smiles, but Tsurugi is struck by a sudden, chilling premonition. A blinding light erupts, forcing them both to shield their eyes in pain. The familiar school building seems to fracture and dissolve into nothing. They reappear in a vast, unfamiliar hall with all their classmates. Tsurugi stares in shock as Ichino stumbles beside him in confusion. The students are dazed, surrounded by impossible, towering architecture. Imposing, fully armored knights suddenly appear before the terrified students. The other students are paralyzed with fear, unable to comprehend the situation. From a high balcony, regal figures look down upon the summoned youths. A stern nobleman declares that they are the heroes he has summoned. Tsurugi and the others are stunned to hear they are sacrificial summons. A student shouts in disbelief, demanding to know what is happening. The knights announce they will now check their statuses for assignment. An official explains their assignments will be decided via an auction. The bidding for one hero is shown, with the price soaring past 1 million. Prices for S-rank heroes climb into the tens of millions. The official asks a nervous Ichinos to step forward and be appraised. With a trembling hand, she touches the glowing, translucent status plate. The result is announced: Suzuno Ichinos is a rank S Saintus. The bidding for her instantly skyrockets, reaching a staggering 40 million. After she is sold, the official gestures for the next person to come. He holds out the status plate, calling Tsurugi forward for his turn. Tsurugi swallows hard as his name is called to be appraised. His result is displayed: job, cook, rank G, a pathetically low designation. The auctioneer sighs and reluctantly asks for an opening bid for Tsurugi. He asks if anyone will bid, but is met with scornful silence. The unseen crowd erupts, calling it a waste of time and demanding to move on. They question why someone so useless was summoned during a world crisis. Tsurugi accepts their judgment, quietly stepping aside for the next hero. He wonders what he could have possibly done to deserve this fate. An elderly official offers him a sword and a small pouch of money. He is told that returning to his own world is impossible. The man explains he will be banished through a large transfer gate. When asked where, the man replies that no country will have him. Tsurugi realizes with horror that he is being completely abandoned. Ichino suddenly cries out, pleading for him to wait. He turns, his expression somber as she pushes through the crowd. He recalls that Ichino's was sold to the far-off Luxentale kingdom. He tries to reassure her, saying he thinks they will meet again. With hopeful eyes, she begs him to promise that they will. He looks at her for a moment, his decision made. He clenches his fist, steeling his resolve for what comes next. With a sad smile, he agrees and bids her a final farewell. He steps through the swirling portal as the official watches impassively. The moment the portal closes, the official's calm facade shatters. He reaches out a trembling hand, realizing a terrible mistake has been made. In the darkness, Tsurugi's eye is wide with shock and determination. He lands hard in a dark forest, his body battered and injured. He gasps for breath, kneeling in the dirt, sweat on his brow. Clutching his wounded arm, he understands he was sent here to die. He screams in rage at being tricked by that duplicitous old man. A translucent status plate suddenly appears before his eyes. He sits down to examine his pathetic stats and cooking-related skills. He tests his detailed appraisal skill on a massive, ancient tree. He realizes the skill will allow him to identify edible plants. With a new goal, he decides to act and ensure his survival. He quickly finds a patch of mushrooms his skill identifies as delicious. He thinks that with his skills, survival might not be so difficult. He muses that he will be fine as long as he avoids monsters. A small, bear-like creature appears in the distance, startling him. He trembles, gripping his sword tightly as the monster approaches him. His hands shake, but he holds the simple blade ready to fight. He curses his fate, thrown into a forest because he isn't a warrior. His fear and anger build as he faces his first life-or-death battle. He screams into the wilderness, vowing to survive and claim his revenge. He hears a noise and turns, mistaking a new creature for a cat. Deep, powerful claw marks gouged into a tree hint at its true nature. A colossal saber-toothed jaguar emerges, towering over him in the clearing. Tsurugi breaks into a cold sweat, his mind reeling from the sheer terror. Fueled by desperation, he lets out a defiant roar and charges forward. The beast casually swipes, sending his only sword flying from his grasp. Disarmed, he runs, frantically searching his mind for any other weapon. His mind goes blank, only able to recall a list of mushrooms. The jaguar lunges, its claws sinking deep into his body. He is thrown violently through the undergrowth, crashing to the ground. He lies broken in a pool of his own blood, utterly defeated. As his vision fades, he wonders if this is how his life ends. The memory of those who wronged him ignites a final spark of rage. He refuses to die, his will to live burning with defiance. He vows to survive and make every last one of them pay. He unleashes his ignition skill, engulfing the monster in magical flames. He watches the beast scream in agony, knowing he must finish it. The jaguar thrashes wildly, completely consumed by the inferno. The monster's eye reflects the flames as its life finally fades. It collapses to the ground, defeated by his desperate, fiery attack. Tsurugi knows he must use his skills to secure the kill experience. With his last ounce of strength, he focuses on the dying creature. His eye widens as he activates his dismantling a skill to end it. As Tsurugi lies defeated, dark, inky energy erupts from the slain jaguar. A close-up reveals his bloodied face, his breathing a ragged, wheezing sound. In the darkness of his unconscious mind, a flood of notifications begins. The system announces he has leveled up repeatedly, learning the skill, Spring Water. Tsurugi slowly awakens, his vision blurry as he stares up at the forest canopy. His eyes struggle to focus, his mind trying to process his surroundings. He cries out in agony, forcing his broken body into a sitting position. Clutching his torso, he wonders if he's alive, recalling the monster he defeated. He vaguely remembers learning some kind of new skill before he passed out. A system message lingers in his vision, confirming he learned Spring Water. He questions the skill as shimmering blobs of pure water materialize above him. Lying on the ground, he stares in utter shock as the water forms from nothing. A close-up captures his wide-eyed astonishment at the impossible sight. The magical water splashes onto his face, a small, miraculous relief. He lies in the mud, the summoned water dripping down onto the forest floor. He then spots a perfectly cooked rib roast, a recovery meal that heals injuries. He continues to stare at the impossible meal, his mind reeling from the absurdity. He thinks that if not for his dire state, it would look incredibly delicious. Panting with pain and exhaustion, he begins to crawl toward the promise of food. Driven by primal hunger, he lowers his head to eat the meat off the stone. He tears into the miraculous meal with a desperate, animalistic ferocity. As he eats, a warm, golden light surges through his wounded body. The healing light envelopes him, mending his grievous injuries in an instant. He looks at his hand, amazed to find his skin smooth and unscarred. He sits up in the clearing, completely healed, trying to comprehend what happened. He whispers to himself, his voice thick with disbelief, asking if he was saved. He checks his status, now level 123, and wearily wonders why he's even doing this. A skeletal sword reaper emerges, a level 200 monster he mistook for a person. He realizes with cold dread that he can't possibly win against a level 200 foe. He decides to eat first, learning that cooking the jaguar ribs can grant him keen eye. He has a sudden insight, wondering if cooking is how he learns new skills. A system notification pings, confirming he has successfully learned keen eye. His eyes widen as a profound realization about his unique power begins to dawn. He exclaims that he was right, cooking different monster parts yields different effects. He imagines a mighty Bornyon, knowing the more he eats, the stronger he'll become. He sees that cooking the meat of a dark bat would grant him wind magic. With a new, determined purpose, he sets off to hunt his next meal. He happily eats, confident he'll soon be strong enough to crush his enemies. His hunt leads him to a pack of dangerous, level 150 hyena wolves. He looks upon the pack of wolves, a slight, almost eager smile on his face. Perched on a high branch, he unleashes his Spring Water skill as a weapon. He curses under his breath, realizing there are far too many wolves to fight off. The wolves below snarl, undeterred by his initial high-pressure water attack. A colossal shadow falls over him as a new, much larger predator arrives. The massive beast casually swats a wolf aside, a display of absolute power. He stares in shock at the monstrous, level 260 hellbear before him. The hellbear's malevolent red eyes glare down with intense, predatory focus. It unleashes a deafening roar, a physical shockwave that blasts towards Tsurugi. He is thrown from his perch, his body sent flying through the air by the blast. He retaliates instantly, firing a jet of spring water directly at the bear's face. The bear stumbles back, momentarily distracted by the unexpected counterattack. He casts wood magic and shadow weaving to immobilize the beast before it attacks. He uses his throwing the skill, but the rock he hurls bounces harmlessly away. The small stone makes a pathetic sound against the monster's incredibly thick hide. The hell bear roars in fury, shattering his magical restraints with sheer strength. The vines and shadows snap like threads against the bear's immense power. He cries out as the freed bear lunges, its massive paw swinging towards him. His face contorts in terror as the powerful blow connects, sending him reeling. He is seized by the bear, lifted effortlessly into the air by its massive paw. The bear's grip is like a vice, its immense strength crushing him. Its razor-sharp claws, like daggers, extend from its paw, poised to strike. He is brutally impaled, the bear's claws piercing through his back and chest. Cursing his fate, his body arches in agony from the mortal wound. He thinks of the revenge he so desperately wanted, the justice he sought. He wanted to make his tormentors feel the same bitterness he now feels. He refuses to accept this end, deciding to fight back one last time. With his last ounce of will, he activates his dismantling a skill on his killer. As his life fades, dark energy erupts from the now dying hellbear. The shadowy essence pours into his falling, unconscious body. In the void, he learns he can now use skills without speaking their names aloud. He awakens to a feast of cooked bear meat, offering a new suite of powerful skills. He sits by a fire, the spectral form of the jaguar now his silent companion. A small, wry smile plays on his lips as he contemplates his bizarre situation. The spectral jaguar, scarred and powerful, watches him with intelligent, glowing eyes. He wonders aloud why he must be prepared to die like this every single time. He laments that he is a cook, not a warrior, and must fight smarter. A notification pings, announcing that he has learned the skill, dark magic. He clenches his fist in triumph, excited to finally have a skill fit for a revenger. His moment of elation is cut short by another, far more bizarre notification. Standing alone in the forest, he learns he has been granted a new title. The title is Pervert, for one who doesn't care about hiding important places. His face drains of all color, sweat pouring down as he reads the mortifying title. He screams in anguish, his status now displaying his skills and the embarrassing title. A system notification shows that 30 days, 8 hours, and 30 minutes have passed. Clad in a loincloth, he muses on how strong he is, wondering when he can leave. He stretches, his lean, toned body a testament to a month of relentless training. He recalls the powerful monsters he has defeated and the skills he has gained. He shivers, complaining about how cold it is without any proper clothes. He sighs, feeling a profound sense of loneliness in the vast, empty forest. He daydreams about typical isekai tropes, like meeting cute beast girls. He clutches his head in frustration, wishing for some warmth and simple comfort. He suddenly senses a familiar presence and turns, his expression hardening. He recognizes the Sword Reaper, the creature that has been stalking him for a month. He notes that while he always escaped before, his new level changes everything. He casts shadow weaving as the Reaper teleports, vowing not to let it escape. He is shocked as the Reaper easily evades his magical trap. Unfazed, he summons a massive wooden golem with his wood magic ability. The golem grabs the Reaper, which shrieks as Tsurugi ignites it with his fire. Using presence detection, he tracks the Reaper's teleportation to 150 meters away. He declares it a battle of endurance, confident his magical fire will not be extinguished. Outmaneuvered, Tsurugi looks up at the towering Sword Reaper from the forest floor. An instant later, he is sent flying by a powerful, unseen blow. He crashes to the ground, his face contorted in pain and surprise. The Sword Reaper looms over him, its ethereal scythe raised for the final strike. In a desperate, last-ditch effort, Tsurugi activates his ultimate trump card. The Reaper's skeletal form dissolves into a cloud of harmless black particles. Triumphant, Tsurugi dons the fallen monster's robes, happy to finally discard his embarrassing title. He examines his new gear, noting the powerful scythe is also a drop item. Standing tall, he claims the weapon that has stalked him for a month. Suddenly, a torrent of dark energy erupts from the robes, overwhelming him. He cries out in shock as the immense, unfamiliar power surges through his body. A cold, ancient voice echoes in his mind, asking if he is the strong one. He looks around, momentarily confused by the voice emanating from his new weapon. Later, he sits calmly eating, the scythe now a sleek katana beside him. He takes a bite of cooked monster meat, triggering a new skill acquisition. His sentient weapon, Kakumu, expresses disbelief at learning skills through mere cooking. Tsurugi sighs, lamenting that his first conversation in a month is with a sword. Kakumu offers a pact: answer its question correctly, and it will lend its true power. The spectral scythe poses its profound, ultimate question: do you believe in God? A dark, cynical smirk spreads across Tsurugi's face. He calls it a foolish question, saying he had no choice but to believe. He clarifies that he was forced to believe, just to keep from going insane. Before this, he never thought of God, but this cruel world demands an explanation. Flashbacks show his trauma, being summoned, discarded, and nearly killed repeatedly. He remembers huddling alone, naked and terrified, unable to sleep for a moment. He questions how a god could allow such suffering, such corruption to exist. His hand clenches into a fist as he realizes this world is a god's failure. His eyes blazing with newfound conviction, he makes a solemn vow: I will kill God. A dark laughter echoes from the blade, pleased with his answer. The voice tells him not to stop, that it will aid his quest for revenge. He is instructed to pour his will into the blade and imagine his ideal weapon. A status screen appears, revealing the sword's name, Kakumu, and its terrifying title, Shinigami. Kakumu explains that his constant struggle has allowed him to shatter the world's limits. Tsurugi, now focused on escape, asks if there are any towns nearby. The sword ominously replies that it has some unfortunate news for him. It reveals they are deep in the forest center, where a powerful being resides. A colossal dragon emerges from the trees, its sheer size stunning Tsurugi into silence. A system notification identifies the beast, Emperor Dragon, level 300. The dragon's massive, slitted eye snaps open, fixing on the intruder. Tsurugi is paralyzed with fear, recognizing the impossible gap in their power levels. He internally panics, realizing this monster is on a completely different scale. Kakumu's voice remains calm, simply suggesting that he use its power to fight. The dragon speaks, noting how delicious Tsurugi's soul appears to be. It unleashes its Emperor's Breath, a devastating blast that engulfs the entire area. Tsurugi lies motionless in the blast's aftermath as the dragon approaches him. The colossal beast nudges his still form, calling his name and telling him to get up. The dragon expresses its disappointment, finding it a shame if he's already dead. It leans in for a closer inspection of the seemingly lifeless body. But Tsurugi's form dissolves into a swirl of shadows, revealing it was an illusion. Using dark magic, the real Tsurugi materializes from the shadows behind the beast. The Emperor Dragon turns its head, confused by the sudden deception. Tsurugi commends his shadow clone and declares it's time for the counterattack. He pulls out a piece of cooked meat, a recovery meal, to prepare himself. With a quick bite, he readies his body and mind for the coming battle. The dragon, enraged by the trickery, turns its massive body to face him. It unleashes another Emperor's Breath, vowing to hunt him to the ends of the earth. The dragon questions how he can use dark magic to know its location. It roars, declaring it will pursue Tsurugi until he is utterly destroyed. Tsurugi finds himself face to face with the dragon's snapping, tooth-filled maw. He grits his teeth and activates his Iron Wall skill to block the bite. The dragon attacks again, its breath weapon erupting from below and sending him flying. He realizes he can neither escape nor get close, and must rely on his magic. He creates another decoy with dark magic, while activating presence concealment to vanish. His eyes narrow with focus as he prepares for a stealthy strike. The dragon, however, senses him instantly, whipping its massive tail around. The blow connects, sending Tsurugi hurtling through the dense forest canopy. The impact is tremendous, shaking the trees as he crashes to the ground. He lands hard, stunned and disoriented by the sheer force of the attack. The dragon follows up with a concussive blast from its powerful roar. Its slitted eye focuses on its target, preparing the next devastating assault. Tsurugi glares back, his will unbroken despite the overwhelming power difference. The Yihigemon's roar he slams into his Iron Wall, a brutal test of his defense. The world whites out as the force of the roar washes over him. The sheer power of the attack is depicted by radiating lines of force. The dragon is perplexed, wondering why its senses can still pinpoint him. Kakumu explains that Tsurugi's own killing intent is too strong, betraying his position. The moment he prepares to strike, his murderous aura makes him impossible to miss. Tsurugi realizes that his current tactics are useless against such a foe. Kakumu, sensing his desperation, has a brilliant, if risky, idea. It tells him he likely has only one more chance to land a decisive blow. Tsurugi steels himself, understanding the stakes. All right, he declares. He activates disguise, cloaking his potent killing intent with a facade of affection. His hand poised, he prepares to unleash the one skill that can end this. He activates, dismantling, targeting the very fabric of the colossal beast. With a triumphant roar, he declares the Emperor Dragon has been subjugated. He stands alone in the now silent clearing, the great beast gone. In its place is a gumball machine, leaving Tsurugi utterly bewildered. Kakumu identifies it as the boss gacha, a reward for clearing the forest. He hopes a monster doesn't pop out, trusting his EX rank luck to protect him. A single, ominous black capsule emerges from the machine. He opens it, and a puff of white smoke erupts from within. A system notification appears. He has learned the skill, equivalent exchange. He stares in stunned silence, a bead of sweat rolling down his face. Kakumu celebrates, explaining that he has acquired an incredibly rare unique skill. Tsurugi grins, realizing he can now respawn monsters to train and level up indefinitely. Kakumu encourages him, telling him he must master the weapon it has become. A montage begins, showing Tsurugi unleashing his fury on a horde of monsters. Kakumu praises his rapid improvement, to which Tsurugi confidently agrees. A diagram illustrates his brutal 3-day training regimen: battle, repeat, and eat. The results are shown: 3 powerful new resistance and regeneration skills learned from his meals. After a month of brutal survival, Tsurugi Sumeragi finally allows himself a moment of pure bliss. Soaking in a magical tub, he tells his sword, Kakumu, that he needs to find a way out of this forest. He sits in the hot water, realizing with a start that his tattered, bloody clothes are completely unusable. He decides he might as well use the spoils from his hunts, hell bear fur and hyena wolf leather. With a flash of light, he activates, equivalent exchange, transforming the raw materials into new clothes. He stands fully dressed in a stylish, fur-collared black coat, shirt, pants, and sturdy combat boots. Pleased with his new look, he thinks to himself that this should be good enough for now. His sentient sword, Kakumu, advises him to use his disguise skill to hide his overwhelming power. Tsurugi stands atop a sheer cliff, the suffocating Bolf Great Forest finally behind him. The ground beneath him rumbles violently, throwing him off balance as he realizes the cliff is moving. Lying on the ground, he looks up in awe, panting that there's a road. He is overjoyed to see civilization. He realizes he has escaped the forest, a place that shouldn't even have a road leading from it. In the distance, a guard named Brad is brutally cut down by bandits attacking a carriage. Tsurugi watches the chaos, thinking the bandits are fools for attacking in such an open plain. He calmly considers the situation, questioning if he should use the bandits to test his skills. His expression is cold and distant as he weighs his options, his hand resting on his blade. Deciding he can't be bothered, he activates his concealment skills, planning to just walk past the trouble. He has no intention of getting tangled up in the affairs of this world's people. But a young noblewoman in the carriage spots him despite his magic, desperately pleading for his help. The bandits discuss their prize. The woman in the carriage seems to have sharp ears. Their leader yells for them to forget the cargo and just steal the valuable carriage and horses. The guards cry out in despair for their lady, Altierias, as the carriage begins to speed away. Tsurugi lets out a sharp tch of annoyance, his plan to remain uninvolved now ruined. In an instant, he appears before the bandits, a blur of lethal motion and cold steel. The bandits cry out in shock and pain as he cuts them down without a moment's hesitation. One of the surviving guards looks on in awe as Tsurugi appears, seemingly from nowhere. Inside the carriage, the noblewoman wonders what is happening outside amidst the sudden chaos. A lone bandit tries to force the carriage door open, cursing as he struggles with the lock. A handmaiden tells her lady to hide behind her, trying to shield her from the attacker. The bandit is suddenly struck down by a dark, swift force, his body slumping to the ground. Tsurugi stands over the chaos, his expression grim and his katana held ready for the next threat. The aftermath is silent, with a single body lying on the road near the stopped carriage. Tsurugi now stands atop the carriage, a solitary figure surveying the scene he has created. Against a dark, ominous sky, he stands with his back to the survivors, his work complete. Kakumu's voice asks if he is shaken, this being his first time killing humans. He answers no. He reflects with chilling calm that killing a person was surprisingly simple, as the guards emerge. He leaps from the carriage roof, ignoring the people he just saved, and begins to walk away. A blonde-haired guard, stunned, asks who he is, but receives no answer. The guards call out for him to wait, but he continues on his path without a backward glance. The rescued party, including several beastkin women, can only watch as their savior departs. The guards look on with a mixture of awe and suspicion at the mysterious, powerful figure. They are left to wonder just who, or what, that man was as he disappears down the road. He soon arrives at the gates of a bustling town, greeted by a cheerful rabbit girl guard. Stepping inside, Tsurugi is immediately taken aback by the vibrant, bustling streets. The rabbit girl guard offers another enthusiastic welcome to the town of Algria. Tsurugi is surrounded by beastmen, foxkin, catkin, and dogkin, a sight he can't believe. His grim demeanor melts away, replaced by a wide, joyful grin as he exclaims, "Finally!" He declares that his new life as a human in the town of Algria is about to begin. In a tavern, the rescued guards recount the tale of a man who appeared like a hero from a story. The beastkin women express their desire to meet the wonderful person who saved them. Tsurugi buys some vegetables from a market stall, paying the merchant 850 gold. He takes a bite of an apple, noting that he has already gathered most of the rare ingredients. In a weapon shop, he finds the swords on display to be utterly unimpressive. Kakumu scoffs that no sword here could possibly suit its master, who wields a myth-class weapon. Observing the locals, Tsurugi wonders if rice, a staple from his world, exists here. A rabbit girl with glasses overhears him and asks in surprise if he knows what rice is. She tells him that the massive Seidel General Store is the only place that might carry it. Tsurugi stands before the impressive building, confirming this is the place he needs to go. As he enters, a cat girl employee greets him with an energetic, "Welcome Nyan." He is completely overwhelmed by her cuteness, his face flushing as she welcomes him to the store. He stammers that he heard they might have rice, and she happily tells him to follow her. He inwardly panics, unused to speaking with people, especially a cute cat girl. The voice of Kakumo suggests that if he likes her, he could simply buy her. Tsurugi's gaze falls on the thick black collar around her neck, identifying it as a proof of slavery. He quietly acknowledges the grim reality of her status as the girl cheerfully leads him onward. She explains they stock various types of rice from all over the world. Tsurugi examines the grains, expertly identifying one as similar to Thai rice and another as japonica. He orders 10 bags, and the cat girl thanks him enthusiastically for the large purchase. The store's owner, a boisterous man named Seidel, introduces himself and thanks Tsurugi for his patronage. Seidel offers to have the goods delivered, but Tsurugi explains he only just arrived in town. He declines the delivery, placing a hand on the rice sacks as they vanish into his storage. The cat girl and Seidel are left speechless as the mountain of rice disappears in an instant. Seidel asks if he possesses a large capacity item box, which Tsurugi confirms he probably does. The merchant becomes incredibly friendly, offering spices, cutlery, and even a magic pressure cooker. Seidel then mentions that they pride themselves on the slaves they handle, and Tsurugi's attention sharpens. The merchant's expression turns shrewd as he asks if the customer is interested in slaves. Tsurugi's eyes narrow, wondering what the man is getting at with his sudden change in topic. Seidel eagerly gestures for him to follow, insisting he show him something special. As they walk to a back room, another slave girl remarks that Tsurugi seems surprisingly normal. A fox-eared slave explains to her friend that even as slaves, they are protected as valuable property. Tsurugi grows impatient, demanding to know what Seidel really wants to show him. Seidel simply gestures to a heavy, reinforced door, telling him this is what he came to see. Beyond the door are iron bars, behind which are several beastkin girls, identified as criminal slaves. A foxkin girl with a defiant look in her eyes glares at Tsurugi and tells him to be quiet. Another slave explains that criminal slaves are used for dangerous labor as a form of atonement. Tsurugi and Seidel stand before the cage, observing the hopeless figures within. Seidel gestures towards a lone human girl sitting in the back, saying, "This is her." He introduces her as Kanon, a magic user accused of murdering the noble family she served. Tsurugi asks if Seidel believes she is innocent, to which the merchant admits he doesn't know for sure. A woman appears, explaining she was friends with Kanon's parents and has known the girl since birth. She insists that Kanon was a kind child who could never be a murderer. Tsurugi listens, his expression unreadable, as the woman's story paints a picture of a tragic setup. He looks down at Kanon, alone and broken in her cell, a victim of circumstance. The woman begs him to buy Kanon, knowing it's an unreasonable request but desperate to save her. Tsurugi's hand rests on his sword as he considers the plea, not wanting to get involved. He coldly tells her to ask someone else, as he has no intention of involving others in his revenge. Seidel grabs his arm, frantically insisting that if he doesn't act, Kanon will surely be killed. The heavy door to the room is thrown open with a loud bang, interrupting their tense standoff. A pompous young nobleman, Alterius's brother, storms in, declaring he has come to claim Kanon. He sneers at Tsurugi, dismissing him as a commoner, his arrogance finally pushing Tsurugi over the edge. An arrogant nobleman sneers at the shopkeeper, Seidel, about the arrival of Kanon's companion. From the shadows, Tsurugi watches the exchange, his expression cold and unreadable. The nobleman remarks on the tense, unwelcoming atmosphere that has suddenly filled the room. Tsurugi cuts him off, telling the noble his chatter is an annoying obstacle. The nobleman sputters in outrage, claiming it was his turn to speak with Seidel. Tsurugi calmly interjects, stating that Seidel was supposed to have sold Kanon to him. The nobleman and Seidel are both stunned by Tsurugi's bold and unexpected claim. The fuming noble, Dokkum, demands to know what's happening, insisting he had already decided to buy her. Seidel bows apologetically, explaining that this customer had already made a prior contract. Enraged, Lord Dokkum lunges forward and grabs Tsurugi by his thick fur collar. Tsurugi doesn't flinch, his gaze remaining steady and utterly devoid of fear. The nobleman hesitates, a bead of sweat forming as he senses Tsurugi's unnerving calm. Shoving Tsurugi away, Dokkum furiously orders Seidel and his staff to call the guards. He storms out, vowing that Tsurugi and the others will not forget this insolence. Seidel turns to Tsurugi, asking if he is sure, believing he didn't want involvement. Tsurugi's gaze hardens as he looks towards the broken girl, Kanon, in her cell. He declares his dislike for this world's people and his decision to crush them. The camera focuses on his grim resolve as he makes his chilling vow. Seidel closes his eyes with a knowing smile, understanding he now owes Tsurugi a favor. Later, Tsurugi and Kanon stand together in a rented room, their new journey beginning. Tsurugi makes a silent promise to repay the debt he owes to the merchant, Seidel. Seidel's expression shows his confidence that his gut feeling about Tsurugi was correct. The woman who pleaded for Kanon's life thinks of her as a daughter. She prays that Kanon's future will now be filled with a guiding light. That night, the sound of rain begins to fall, setting a somber mood. Rain streaks down the windows of the town's half-timbered buildings as Tsurugi sighs. In his room, Tsurugi laments that Seidel has left him completely broke. He stares out the window, realizing he must change his plans and raise funds. His thoughts turn to a more immediate and important concern than just money. He glances over at the large bed where Kanon is sleeping fitfully. He resolves that she must recover enough to speak before they can do anything. The scene fades to black, signifying a transition as he prepares to act. In the kitchen, Tsurugi's skilled hands begin deftly preparing a meal for Kanon. He pours ingredients into a pot, his focus entirely on the task at hand. The finished dish is a recovery meal, imbued with his unique healing magic. He offers the meal, explaining he heard slaves go hungry so she should eat. He is startled as Kanon takes the plate but makes no move to eat. She is sitting on the floor, holding the plate with a vacant expression. She takes a small, hesitant bite of some stale bread she was holding. Tsurugi rushes over, asking what she is doing and if the food is hot. She responds in a monotone whisper that slaves are meant to eat on the floor. Tsurugi is stunned into silence, realizing the depth of her psychological conditioning. He thinks about how criminal slaves are conditioned to eat and sleep on the floor. He dismisses her conditioning, firmly telling her to sit at the table and eat. He states that his word is her master's command, leaving no room for argument. Kanon silently complies, moving stiffly from the floor to a chair at the table. She picks up a knife and fork, her movements precise and formally trained. She begins to eat the meal, her expression still distant and unreadable. Tsurugi observes her, noting her refined manners seem at odds with her status. He nervously asks how the food is, admitting he's quite confident in his cooking. Kanon pauses for a moment, her fork hovering over the plate as she considers. Tsurugi waits anxiously for her response, his confidence wavering slightly. He wonders if his recovery meals can heal not just the body, but the mind. As he watches, Kanon's hand begins to tremble, a single drop falling from her eye. Her face crumples as tears begin to stream down her cheeks, her composure breaking. Tsurugi is shocked by her sudden emotional outburst, asking why she is crying. Her fork clatters to the floor as her grief overwhelms her completely. She covers her face with her hands, sobbing as she whispers the name Dalch-sama. Tsurugi watches, realizing her tears are proof that her spirit is starting to recover. He thinks of the happy girl she once was, his rage at her tormentors growing. His cold gaze reflects his deep-seated anger towards the world's powerful figures. He recalls images of a vibrant, smiling Kanon, a stark contrast to her present state. A montage of arrogant nobles flashes through his mind as his fury solidifies. Kakumu's voice echoes in his mind, alerting him to an approaching threat. Tsurugi leaps into the rainy alley, noting the 5 assassins are just small fry. He lands silently behind one of the thugs, ready to strike from the shadows. The assassins cry out in pain and surprise as Tsurugi begins his assault. One of the masked men, hearing a sound, asks his comrade what's wrong. He is shocked to find his allies already defeated, scattered on the ground. Another cry echoes through the narrow, rain-slicked alleyway. The assassin feels a presence behind him, asking what is there. Tsurugi's cold, predatory eye glares from behind the assassin's shoulder. He appears in a flash, neutralizing the man before he can even react. Tsurugi's gaze is sharp and focused as he moves through the assassins. He fluidly dodges and weaves, his movements a blur of deadly efficiency. He effortlessly disarms one of the men, sending his knife flying. A swift kick to the chest incapacitates another of the would-be killers. He holds the last man at knife point, confirming they were targeting him. The assassin's eyes widen in terror, a bead of sweat on his brow. With a powerful motion, Tsurugi throws the man with incredible force. The assassin crashes into a stone wall, the impact shattering the structure. Tsurugi stands over the rubble, his knife held ready for interrogation. His eyes are wide with cold fury as he commands the man to talk. He pins the assassin, asking who his target was and who sent him. The terrified man stammers, asking what Tsurugi is even talking about. Tsurugi reveals he knows they were hired to kill the criminal slave girl. The man confesses they were only hired for money and knew nothing else. Tsurugi listens, his expression unreadable as he processes the information. He stands over the defeated assassin, wondering if he should have asked about the employer. A montage of the arrogant nobles flashes through his mind as he connects the dots. He realizes that leaving town will now have to be postponed for a while. He decides he has been saddled with a truly troublesome burden. He walks back towards the inn, his duty to Kanon now solidified. The next morning, Kanon awakens to the sound of chirping birds outside her window. The birds are a symbol of a new day, a new beginning for her. She sits up in bed, the caption stating her awakening is a prelude to revenge. In his room, Tsurugi uses equivalent exchange to learn the clean skill. With a pulse of magic, his dirty adventuring gear becomes instantly spotless. He decides to use the skill on Kanon as well, since she needs a bath. He looks over at her peaceful, sleeping form, glad her nightmares have finally ceased. In the quiet of the inn, Tsurugi stands in silent contemplation. He decides to cook a meal for the withdrawn, traumatized girl. A memory surfaces, a kind nobleman comforts a young Kanon after her father's death. She stood formally, a young girl in a smart, dark servant's uniform. In her memory, the young master, Dolch, clutched a strange, stitched toy. She knelt before him with a warm smile as he shyly thanked her. She felt truly happy to be able to serve such kind and gentle people. Her blissful memories fade to a day spent sweeping the estate grounds. She found a single, resilient daisy, a small moment of simple joy. Her peaceful work was shattered by the sound of a servant's panicked cries. The man screamed that a monster had brutally attacked the young master. Dropping her broom, she ran to find Dolch lying in a pool of blood. Cradling his broken body, she realized with a gasp that he was still breathing. Her healing magic was utterly powerless against such a grievous, fatal wound. She desperately channeled her magic, but it was not nearly enough to save him. The dying boy weakly pleaded with her, begging for the bleeding to stop. Overcome with grief, she collapsed onto his chest, begging him not to die. It was then that two men, a noble and an official, arrived on the scene. They discovered a horrific sight of tragedy, blood staining the courtyard stones. The men stared, trying to comprehend the gruesome scene laid out before them. The official falsely accused her, claiming he personally witnessed her stabbing Dolch. His lie was a convenient fiction, designed to quickly and easily frame her. She screamed in anguish, insisting with every fiber of her being it wasn't her. Her world became a prison cell, her meals a meager, watery gruel. She shared the suffocating darkness with other condemned criminal slaves. A heavy, spiked collar marked her as a murderer, her spirit utterly broken. She saw no point in eating the slop, thinking of it only as garbage. A scarred foxskin girl, her cellmate, noticed her untouched bowl of food. She told Kanon to give it to her if she had no intention of eating. The girl explained their grim fate as slaves sold to die in mines or wars. Kanon understood she was condemned to be whipped and worked until she died. Curled in a ball, she wondered what she had done to deserve such a fate. Her despair was pierced by the memory of a kind woman wanting to buy her. A hand reached for her, pulling her from the darkness of her memories. It was Tsurugi, her new master, standing before her in the inn room. He gave his first command with quiet authority: sit at the table and eat. She stared at the proper meal, a sight she had not seen for ages. Her hands rested nervously in her lap, stiff and uncertain from her ordeal. Though she felt no hunger, she knew she had to obey her master's command. Mechanically, she lifted the fork to her mouth and took a single, empty bite. Her eyes flew open as the food's potent, healing magic flooded her senses. Tsurugi watched, asking how it tasted, confident in his culinary skill. She held the utensils, her entire world suddenly shifting on its axis. The flavor and power began to unlock a memory buried deep beneath her trauma. Her grip tightened on the cutlery, her carefully constructed composure breaking. She remembered Dalt's final, kind words as he lay dying in her arms. He had looked at her, his life fading, and tried to comfort her. His last wish, whispered weakly, was for her not to cry over him. In the present, a single, hot tear escaped and ran down her cheek. The meal had mended her soul enough for her to whisper his name. As she ate, Tsurugi calculated his finances, realizing he was almost broke. He mused that he would soon need to find a way to earn more money. He paused his own meal, noticing Kanon's intense and unwavering stare. Kanon watched him, her eyes fixed hungrily on the food left on his plate. Thinking she was simply starved, he offered her the rest of his own food. Her appetite returned with a vengeance, and she began devouring everything. She held out an empty plate, silently demanding another serving from him. He showed her the empty rice pot, amazed she ate all 6 cups by herself. He questioned if she was even human, then dismissed the outlandish thought. He saw the life return to her face and asked if the meal was good. She turned with a radiant, sparkling smile, exclaiming enthusiastically that it was. He was stunned by the sudden and joyous transformation in her demeanor. He briefly, and incorrectly, compared her to a stray cat he had tamed. Suddenly, Kanon clutched her chest and collapsed forward onto the table. Tsurugi panicked, his mind racing, fearing he had somehow just killed her. She looked up drowsily, explaining she was just sleepy from being so full. The next morning, a revitalized Kanon happily devoured a massive breakfast. Her praise was effusive and genuine, his cooking was truly delicious. He was flustered by her compliments, completely unaccustomed to such praise. She felt wonderful, she explained, as if all her past troubles had vanished. She cheekily forgave his bad manners, leaving him utterly confused. Feeling refreshed, she suggested they go to the back well to wash themselves. He pictured the public well, horrified at the very idea of her bathing there. She insisted it was fine, reminding him of her lowly status as a slave. He put his foot down, firmly telling her that she was not to go. Instead, Kanon modeled the new, lacy underwear Tsurugi had created for her. She innocently asked if this was his country's common style of underwear. Flustered, he mumbled that it was probably from a place called Japan. He then used his clean skill, instantly restoring her tattered dress to new. Her hair and clothes were now pristine and sparkling, free of any grime. She was amazed by the magic, exclaiming that all the dirt was gone. Tsurugi then handed her a fresh set of clean clothes he had prepared. He explained that he had made them for her earlier while she was asleep. Kanon tilted her head, confused, having never heard of a country called Japan. She recalled the rumors of a single hero who was left behind in the summoning. Realizing they'd never been introduced, she asked his name, Tsurugi Sumeragi. Her eyes widened as the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. She realized he was just like her, a person cast aside by the world. She formally introduced herself as Kanon and pledged her loyalty to him. Tsurugi gently told her to simply ask if she ever needed help from him. He asked her to be his guide around the town, and she happily agreed. She led him on a cheerful and vibrant tour through the lively city of Algria. Tsurugi noticed that she seemed to know every single food stall in the city. Kanon mentioned that a scary bear had recently appeared near the inns. He apologized, realizing his own focus had been almost entirely on food. She proudly showed him what she called the best weapon shop in town. She quietly revealed it was owned by a childhood friend of her late father. Kanon offered to wait outside while he took his time looking around inside. She was surprised when he tactfully chose not to enter the shop at all. His sword, Kakumu, questioned him, but Tsurugi was only hiding his true power. Having secured her freedom, Tsurugi bluntly informs Kanon of their new problem: he's broke. He strokes his chin thoughtfully, planning his next move to earn a living. He reminds a nervous Kanon that his job is cook, hinting at his new plan. Kanon protests that starting a restaurant in a new town without connections is impossible. Tsurugi's sharp senses suddenly twitch, detecting an unseen presence in the bustling street. He calmly tells a startled Kanon that they have been followed since leaving the inn. He notes that this follower lacks the murderous intent of the previous assassins. Deciding it's not a threat, he asks Kanon for directions to the Seidel General Store. Kanon brightens, asking how he knows the way to the store. She knows the store well, asking if he is an acquaintance of Uncle Seidel. She apologizes, explaining her memory of the previous day is still a hazy blur. Tsurugi realizes she doesn't even remember being in that very store. He concludes that for business matters, consulting a merchant is the best approach. The store's catgirl employee spots Kanon, her eyes widening in stunned recognition. She lets out a piercing shriek, calling for the owner in a fit of excitement. Kanon thinks to herself that this will at least save them the trouble of finding Seidel. the merchant Seidel rushes over, overjoyed to see Kanon has regained her spirit. As Seidel begins to thank him profusely, Tsurugi coolly states that it's unnecessary. He quickly pivots, telling the merchant that he has a favor to ask. In his office, Seidel leans forward, listening intently to Tsurugi's business proposition. Seidel explains the many bureaucratic hurdles of selling rice balls in the city. Tsurugi cuts him off, telling the merchant to use his appraisal skill first. With a polite "pardon me," Seidel focuses his skill on the platter of food. His eyes go wide in shock as he sees they are magical, stat-boosting onigiri. Tsurugi explains that stat-boosting food is unheard of, and he can make 100 daily. Seidel grabs Tsurugi's coat, begging to be the exclusive seller of this miracle product. He excitedly declares the rice balls will be an undeniable hit with travelers and soldiers. Kanon sweats nervously, unable to see the skill-based details of the incredible deal. 2 guards arrive. The beastkin woman introduces herself as Rotten of the Ibisu family. She formally requests that Tsurugi accompany them, leaving Kanon in suspense. Rotten adds, almost as an afterthought, that the slave girl may come along too. Tsurugi turns to Kanon, telling her that the choice to face this is hers alone. Kanon worries about the business deal, as Seidel was about to agree to sell. She recognizes the 2 guards as the ones from the bandit attack on the carriage. With firm resolve, Kanon takes Tsurugi's hand, signaling her decision to go. She looks up at her master, her expression showing she is ready to face her past. They are led through the ornate, book-lined hallways of a massive mansion. In a lavish room, the nobleman Delgaroius and his elegant sister Altierias await. The Ibisu estate is a sprawling, castle-like structure, a symbol of immense power. As they enter, the beastkin maids glare at Kanon with undisguised contempt. One maid sneers, questioning how Kanon dares to show her face here. She viciously accuses Kanon of murdering their young master, Dalch. In the reception hall, Altierias explains she asked her retainers to find Tsurugi. She insists on thanking him personally, while Delgaroius looks on sourly. The atmosphere in the grand room is thick with unspoken tension and grief. Delgaroius offers a reward, 10,000 gold and a short sword with the family crest. Altierias apologizes for summoning them so suddenly, her demeanor graceful. She formally introduces herself and her brother, Delgaroius Ibisu. Kanon whispers Altierias' name, recognizing the noblewoman who purchased her. Altierias greets Kanon with a warm smile, saying it's been a long time. She turns to Tsurugi, thanking him for saving her from the bandits. Delgaroius grumbles under his breath that he doesn't see it that way at all. Altierias explains that Kanon was convicted despite a complete lack of evidence. Fearing a conspiracy, she had secretly entrusted Kanon to her friend, Seidel. Tsurugi is stunned, realizing the 10,000 gold is a retainer for a huge job. He wonders why they would entrust such a monumental task to a stranger like him. A single tear escapes Kanon's eye as the weight of the truth sinks in. Altierias' voice breaks as she repeats the official charge, that Kanon killed her son. Rotten quickly interjects, stating that everyone in the room believes Kanon is innocent. She and the scarred warrior Goliath share a look of grim, unwavering resolve. Altierias looks at Tsurugi, her eyes filled with a desperate, hopeful plea. Delgaroius, his face a mask of grief, clenches his fists in impotent rage. His intense, burning gaze fixes on Tsurugi, silently begging for help. Kanon covers her mouth in shock as Tsurugi calmly asks what the request is. He listens intently, his expression unreadable, as the full scope of the tragedy unfolds. With a roar of grief and fury, Delgaroius bellows his true request: find his son's killer. Back at the store, Seidel is ecstatic, having already arranged to sell the rice balls. He excitedly lays out the terms, 10,000 gold each, with a guaranteed 30-day contract. Tsurugi's utter lack of reaction to the massive sum leaves Seidel completely baffled. Kanon explains to a smiling catgirl that Tsurugi isn't really concerned with money. Seidel's expression shifts from confusion to a shrewd, knowing smile. Tsurugi is back in the mansion, examining the ornate short sword he was given. His new mission is clear: find the real person who killed the young master. He confirms his understanding of the task, asking if he is to find the killer. Delgaroius grits his teeth, his expression pained as he affirms the request. Altierias offers a reward, 500,000 gold upfront, and millions more upon success. Tsurugi thoughtfully asks what will become of Kanon once the true culprit is found. Altierias promises that Kanon will be declared innocent and freed from slavery. She turns to Kanon, joyfully telling her to return to the Ibisu house then. Altierias gently takes Kanon's hands, her touch conveying a deep sense of hope. She warmly asks Kanon to have tea with her again when this is all over. She laments that her tea time has become lonely without Dalch and Kanon. Tsurugi listens to the exchange, silently processing the family's deep-seated pain. He closes his eyes for a moment, contemplating the dangerous path ahead. Delgaroius watches him, a grudging respect finally dawning in his eyes. He admits that he believes Tsurugi will succeed where they have failed. Tsurugi finds their sudden faith in him to be rather overbearing. He sighs, realizing he is in no position to judge their strange behavior. Tsurugi discusses the case with Seidel, who has become a trusted confidant. Seidel warns him that the conspirators are dangerous and will surely target Kanon. Kanon, innocently eating a sweet, asks what they are discussing so seriously. Seidel looks at her, his expression grave as he confirms the danger is real. Tsurugi reasons that simply fleeing the town won't make Kanon any safer. Seidel agrees, explaining assassins would hunt her to the ends of the earth. Tsurugi concludes that using the mansion as a base is their most logical move. He thinks of the assassins from the carriage, his hand resting on his sword. He tells himself that this isn't about revenge, not for him anyway. He has no intention of getting emotionally invested in avenging a stranger's murder. Seidel wonders aloud if Tsurugi has suddenly developed a hobby of helping people. Tsurugi internally scoffs at the idea, his true, complex motives remaining his own. Upon arriving at the magnificent Ibisu mansion, a catkin maid named Hana formally greets them, having been assigned as their guide. Tsurugi is taken aback to learn from Alterius that she is married, a fact she confirms with a radiant, happy smile. A nearby maid gushes over the beautiful Lady Alicia and her remarkably bright son, Claude, a picture of noble grace. Alterius agrees they are a lovely couple, but Tsurugi grimly dismisses such happy stories as irrelevant to him. As they proceed down an elegant corridor, their path is blocked by the arrogant nobleman Dokkum, his face a mask of incandescent rage. He recognizes Tsurugi from their previous encounter at Seidel's store and furiously demands to know what business he has here. Dokkum venomously declares that the esteemed Ibisu mansion is no place for a commoner of Tsurugi's low standing. Unfazed, Tsurugi coolly observes that Dokkum's loud shouting in such a place is what is truly vulgar. The nobleman's eye twitches, his composure completely shattered by the sharp, demeaning retort from the man he despises. With a furious cry of Tsurugi's name, Dokkum abandons all decorum and throws a wild punch, aiming to strike him down. Tsurugi doesn't even flinch, his hand shooting out to catch the incoming fist with contemptuous ease, stopping the attack instantly. A sickening crunch echoes through the hall as Dokkum screams in agony, the bones in his hand shattering from the impact. The brutal force of the block is shown in stark detail, causing Kanon to gasp in shock at the display of power. "What did you do?" Dokkum stammers, cradling his bloody hand, utterly unable to comprehend what just happened to him. His mind flashes to his own inflated stats, unable to believe his S-rank stamina could fail against a mere level 30 mage. A guard rushes to his master's side, finding him kneeling in pain and demanding to know who is responsible for the commotion. Enraged and humiliated, Dokkum orders his guards to seize Tsurugi at once, accusing him of causing his grievous injury. Kanon stares in disbelief at the nobleman's audacity, appalled by his attitude towards the head mage of the house. The beastkin guards, their faces unreadable, move to obey their master's command, preparing to surround Tsurugi and his companions. Kanon, her fear forgotten, bravely plants herself in front of Tsurugi, pleading with the advancing guards to stop. "My master hasn't done anything," she insists, as a guard demands to know what she is doing interfering with their duty. Suddenly, Captain Rotten's sharp voice cuts through the tension, berating her men for daring to draw their swords on a guest. Dokkum, his face twisted in pain, shows her his mangled hand, insisting that Tsurugi was the one who crushed his fist. He claims Tsurugi provoked the fight and that his hand was broken when he tried to block the nobleman's punch. Throughout the accusation, Tsurugi remains perfectly still and silent, Kanon still standing protectively before him. Captain Rotten observes the scene with a sharp, calculating gaze, her expression thoughtful as she weighs her master's words. She addresses Dokkum directly, her tone betraying a hint of skepticism as she questions his version of the events. She confirms with Dokkum that he believes Tsurugi was merely blocking his punch, a fact the nobleman affirms vehemently. Rotten finds this impossible to believe, knowing from experience that a direct hit from Tsurugi would have utterly destroyed Dokkum's arm. She muses that the man is a demon, having now witnessed his terrifying, inhuman power on 2 separate occasions. She vividly recalls how he slaughtered the bandits attacking Lady Alterius in a single, instantaneous, and brutal assault. She warns her foolish master that if he continues to provoke Tsurugi, he will undoubtedly end up getting himself killed. Dokkum scoffs at her warning, dismissing Tsurugi as nothing more than a lowly level 20 monk, a complete misjudgment. Rotten lets out a quiet, weary sigh, exasperated by her master's blinding arrogance and foolish pride. She curtly orders her men to take the still protesting Dokkum to the medical room to have his hand treated. As the guards drag their complaining master away, Tsurugi, Kanon, and Hana watch the chaotic scene unfold. Tsurugi turns to Rotten with a look of sympathy, remarking that she must have it rough dealing with such a family. With the immediate danger past, the immense stress of the confrontation finally hits Kanon, and her legs give way. Hana rushes to her side with a cry of "Kanon" as the girl collapses onto the polished floor. Kanon gives a weak, embarrassed smile, apologizing and explaining that her legs simply gave out from the tension. Tsurugi suggests she go rest, but Hana cheekily retorts that it's his fault for causing the trouble in the first place. Hana offers to escort Kanon to her room, and Tsurugi agrees, gently lifting the girl into his arms. Later, a deeply apologetic Rotten finds Tsurugi and Kanon, offering a sincere apology for her master's reckless behavior. Kanon, now resting in her room with Hana by her side, quietly accepts the captain's apology. Rotten promises to handle the situation, her respect for Tsurugi's serious and capable demeanor growing. Tsurugi accepts her apology, seizing the opportunity to ask for her full cooperation in his investigation of the murder. Alone, Tsurugi begins his work, pacing a long, shadowed hallway as he reviews the official case files. He stares at the report in his hands, his expression one of utter disbelief at its contents. "What is this nonsense?" he scoffs, realizing the entire investigation was a sham designed to frame Kanon. He questions the flimsy evidence, mocking the anonymous eyewitness and the lack of any real details. He wonders how such a shoddy conspiracy could be so obvious to him, a simple high school student from another world. He concludes that there must be a larger plot at work, one involving someone with significant power and influence. His mind races as he considers the possibilities, questioning who would have the most to gain from the young heir's death. He ponders the central mystery: why, out of all the servants, was Kanon, a mere apprentice mage, chosen as the scapegoat? He wishes his detailed appraisal skill could simply point out the killer, but he knows it is not that simple. His deep concentration is broken by the quiet approach of the maid, Hana, who is carrying a tray. Hana explains that she was sent to bring Kanon tea and sweets, but the girl seems to have no appetite. Tsurugi curtly dismisses her, and she bows, leaving him alone with his dark and complicated thoughts once more. He finds Kanon in her room, huddled on the floor, a solitary figure consumed by her own despair. His sudden presence startles her, and she gasps, her eyes wide with fright as she looks up at him. A traumatic memory flashes through her mind, the face of the official, falsely accusing her of murdering Dolch. Tsurugi, having pieced together the timeline, looks at her with a sudden, dawning realization. Kanon apologizes to her master for her state, but he explains that he has already heard the story from Rotten. She looks down, her heart heavy with the shame and horror of the crime she has been accused of. Her hands clench into fists as she whispers that if only she had been stronger, Dolch would not have died. She laments that a more skilled magic user could have saved him, blaming her own weakness for his tragic death. Her words of powerlessness strike a deep, painful chord within Tsurugi, echoing his own humiliating rejection. His hands tighten into fists at his side, the memory of being cast out as useless flooding his mind. He looks at the broken girl before him, his voice soft as he speaks her name, Kanon. He leans down, his gaze intense, and asks her a single, life-altering question: "Do you want to be strong?" Overwhelmed by a surge of desperate hope, Kanon breaks down, crying out that she wants to be strong more than anything. A fierce grin spreads across Tsurugi's face. "All right then," he declares, summoning a mountain of food. "Eat all of this." Kanon is stunned into silence by the sudden appearance of the massive feast, as Tsurugi urges her to eat quickly. She takes her first bite, and the potent, magical properties of his cooking immediately begin to take effect. A translucent screen appears before her eyes, announcing a miracle: "You have learned the skill, wind magic." "What is this?" she whispers in awe, as Tsurugi, his mind already on the next step, asks about any nearby dungeons. She explains that there are 3, the closest of which is a medium-sized dungeon with a boss around level 40. She continues, detailing the various ranks of the dungeons, with the most difficult having bosses that reach level 100. Tsurugi strokes his chin, realizing that even the strongest local dungeon is not enough for him to break his own level cap. He comes to a grim conclusion: to get stronger, he has no choice but to return to the Bolf Great Forest. He looks at Kanon's status, noting that despite all the monster meat she ate, she has only learned 2 new skills so far. He pats her gently on the head, telling her that their next priority must be leveling up her power. Kanon, however, asks him to prioritize solving her case, but he assures her he has no intention of neglecting either task. To prove his point, Tsurugi unleashes his dark power, his hand glowing as he invokes the forbidden art of necromancy. Kanon watches in shock as the powerful spell visibly drains a significant amount of his magical energy. From the swirling abyss, a towering lich emerges, bowing respectfully and addressing Tsurugi as its new master. The undead creature offers its complete servitude, asking only that its powerful new master grant it a name. Tsurugi looks at the skeletal being and makes his declaration, "Beals. From now on, your name is Beals." Beals lets out a cackle of pure delight, overwhelmed by the exquisite and fragrant magical power emanating from its new master. Feeling the strain of the summoning, Tsurugi quickly tells his new servant that he has a job for him. Beals leans in close, its skeletal hand gently touching Tsurugi's face, assuring him that it already understands his intentions. The lich's power envelopes them, and it announces that it will now begin its investigation into the conspiracy. The immense magical exertion leaves Tsurugi exhausted, while Kanon's spirit comically flies out of her body from the shock. He catches her as she faints, yelling at her to snap out of it, insisting that what she saw was not a dream. Just as he is dealing with the unconscious Kanon, a sharp, polite knock sounds at their door. Tsurugi cautiously cracks the door open, his expression wary as he peers out into the hallway. He is greeted by the serene smile of a beautiful fox-skin maid, who wishes him a good day. She explains that she felt a strange, unsettling presence coming from his room, but Tsurugi quickly denies anything is amiss. Tsurugi eyes the maid with suspicion, realizing that this elegant and perceptive woman is a new, unknown variable in his investigation. Missing description for panel 0100. Ari, the elegant fox-eared attendant, compliments her guest's exceptionally sharp senses. She has come to invite Tsurugi and Kanon to join Altieria's for tea. Kanon looks distressed, having just eaten a massive meal and now facing more. Tsurugi takes a moment to admire the vast, impressive garden of the mansion. Ari proudly explains that magical items keep the garden in a state of perpetual spring. She gestures to a prepared table, noting it's been too long since they had tea. Kanon hesitates, explaining that as a slave, she feels unworthy to join them. Altieria's expression saddens at Kanon's words, a hint of pity in her eyes. She reminisces about the happy times she, Dolch, and Kanon often shared here. Her smile is tinged with sorrow as she reflects on the recent, tragic past. The three sit at the table, a heavy, unspoken sadness hanging between them. Tsurugi holds his teacup, his expression unreadable, his senses on high alert. Altierias notices his pause and asks if he dislikes the tea she has served. Tsurugi quietly denies that there is anything wrong with the offered drink. He takes a sip, complimenting its refreshing aroma and surprisingly delicious taste. His inner thoughts, however, reveal a chilling secret: the tea is poisoned. He knows this poison won't affect him, but it would be instantly fatal to a normal human. His appraisal skill confirms the presence of a deadly alkaloid, but only in his cup. Tsurugi's gaze hardens as he confronts Altierias, demanding to know who is responsible. He reveals he has a copy of the official investigation report, calling it useless. He knows it contains only 4 testimonies, as key people were conveniently absent. Ari admits she was present and heard Dolch speaking with someone before he died. She explains that the voice was faint, and she could only tell it was a man. Tsurugi snaps, but Ari frantically insists she told the knight who took her statement. Tsurugi quietly considers her frantic denial, trying to determine if she is lying. He theorizes that Ari's sharp beastkin hearing was deliberately dulled by poison. His eyes narrow as he realizes the conspiracy is far more complex than he imagined. A look of cold resolve settles on his face as he formulates his next move. He summons his powerful undead servant, Beals, from a swirling vortex of shadow. Tsurugi gives his lich a new command: investigate Ari's personal maids. He mentally reviews the timeline of the murder, identifying all the key players. He lists his priorities: the investigation, the assassins, and the poison attempt. A sudden, terrified scream echoes from the garden, interrupting his thoughts. A maid flees in terror, screaming for everyone to die repeatedly. A woman in a demonic outfit appears, flanked by beasts, announcing herself as the master's Oni. The narrative flashes back to 1 hour before the attack on the mansion. Tsurugi presents a new set of custom-made battle gear to a hesitant Kanon. Kanon is mortified by the revealing, demonic bodysuit, despite its powerful stats. Tsurugi coldly asks if she is truly willing to do anything to get stronger. He tells her they are going to the Bolf Great Forest to level up immediately. He moves with incredible speed, grabbing her before she can properly protest. His expression is grim and determined. The time for coddling her is over. Using his Shundokla skill, he sweeps a shrieking Kanon into his arms. She looks up at him in utter shock as they vanish in a blur of motion. Back in the present, Kanon is frozen in fear before the Oni assassin. The training begins with Kanon desperately fleeing from a monstrous beast. Tsurugi's voice yells that she cannot win the fight by simply running away. She trips and falls to the ground, the monster closing in on her. Her face is a mask of pure terror as she faces what seems to be certain death. She is surrounded by hulking monsters, with Tsurugi watching impassively from a distance. He appears behind her, his voice devoid of pity, questioning her resolve. Kanon cries that it's impossible, having never even fought a wild rat before. Tsurugi listens to her pleas, his expression unreadable in the forest shadows. He says, "I see." Then it's over, and coldly turns his back to walk away. Kanon calls out his name, shocked and abandoned on the forest floor. A look of fierce determination replaces her fear as she quickly gets up. A massive beast with sharp claws lunges directly at Tsurugi's turned back. Kanon's eyes widen in horror as she realizes her master is in danger. She screams, "No," and unleashes a powerful blast of her own magical energy. Tsurugi turns, unleashing his own devastating attack, Fire Javelin, upon her. Kanon bravely meets the storm of dark fireballs with her staff held high. The resulting magical explosion engulfs the entire clearing in a swirl of energy. When the smoke clears, Kanon kneels, surrounded by a cascade of level-up notifications. Her eyes widen in disbelief at the immense surge of power she has gained. She triumphantly declares her victory, amazed she defeated such a strong monster. Tsurugi gives her a condescending smile, pleased with the results of his test. He informs her that the real training is just beginning, and her face falls. He tells her not to worry about taking damage, as he has plenty of recovery meals. Kanon's expression is one of pure horror at the brutal ordeal yet to come. In the present, the Oni's cry echoes as the assassin is finally defeated. Tsurugi walks through town, thinking about Kanon's day-long, grueling training session. He carries the exhausted, sleeping Kanon back toward the safety of the mansion. He checks her status, amazed to see she has jumped from level 25 to 158. As he walks down a quiet, lamplit alley, a figure calls out to him. The burly guard Goliath confronts him, demanding to know what happened to Kanon. Tsurugi explains it was training, and Goliath notes she has been working hard. Goliath reveals he's been on patrol since a bear was spotted in the inn district. He cheerfully asks if Tsurugi is hungry and offers to treat him at his favorite spot. He leans in, warning Tsurugi to be wary of suspicious people in the slums. Tsurugi's eyes narrow as he processes the information about potential threats. At the tavern, Goliath and Kanon cheer loudly, while Tsurugi remains silently observant. A woman asks why Tsurugi isn't eating, wondering if the on-duty knight should be drinking. Goliath drunkenly grabs Tsurugi, declaring a true knight can handle his liquor. The tough guard suddenly breaks down, weeping openly with his drink in hand. He tearfully apologizes, blaming himself for not being there to protect Dolch. Tsurugi asks if any proper knights followed the corrupt knight captain, Denga. Goliath furiously explains that only Rottens and Delgaroius's corps remained loyal. He cries out in anguish, questioning why Dolch was left all alone outside. Tsurugi listens, realizing how difficult it will be to find the man Dolch spoke with. As they return to the mansion, Goliath warns Tsurugi to be careful. Tsurugi and Kanon stand on a balcony, looking out at the night sky. In their room, Beals awaits them, bowing and announcing its return. Tsurugi and Kanon look at their undead servant, ready for its report. The imposing lich stands before them, its clandestine investigation now complete. Tsurugi asks if it found anything, and the lich's single eye glows brightly. Beals tells them to see for themselves what it has discovered on its mission. The room around them dissolves and reforms, shocking Kanon into silence. They now stand in a completely different, ornate study, the illusion perfect. Beals explains this is a virtual space, a reproduction of its own memories. Tsurugi asks what this place is, while Kanon looks on in utter awe. Beals presents a portrait, identifying the elegant woman as Lord Dokum's wife. They stand within a perfect, magical recreation of Dokum's private study. The lich explains the copy is flawless, down to every last scratch. Seated at the desk, Beals reveals the object of their search is here. The desk drawer slides open on its own, filled with documents. A single letter, sealed with wax, floats out from among the papers. Tsurugi and Kanon watch in stunned silence as the letter drifts toward them. Tsurugi takes the letter, noting it's from Dokum, sent by Eris Fiesel. He breaks the wax seal and begins to read the letter's contents. Kanon looks over his shoulder, shocked to see a letter from Lord Dokum. They read of a plan to deal with that little fox and a helpful baron. Kanon realizes the fox must be her. Beals commends their discovery. The lich's skeletal hand then presents the actual, physical letter to Tsurugi. Tsurugi accepts the concrete proof, retrieved from the real world by his servant. Kanon realizes in horror that Dokkum knew the killer and framed her anyway. Tsurugi places a steadying hand on her shoulder as she trembles. He tells her to calm down, calling it a common tale of a fool's manipulation. Tsurugi then asks Kanon if she recognizes the name Eris Ficel. Realizing they need more information, he turns to his undead servant. He gives Beals a simple command, to act as he sees fit. The virtual space shatters, and Kanon stumbles back onto a real couch. She clutches her head, desperately asking if what she saw was a dream. Tsurugi quietly wonders if Lady Alteria's might also be in danger. He concludes internally that anyone connected to Eris or Dokkum is untrustworthy. Shedding his coat, he tells Kanon he is going to investigate further. He gives her a stern warning not to open the door for anyone but him. He recalls that his usual concealment skills had been noticed by the maid Ari. He dons his hermit's coat, making him undetectable to lower-level beings. Noting that it's already morning, he slips out of the window like a phantom. A knight commander shouts at his men, telling them they are late for training. He furiously berates them for their weak stances and sloppy sword swings. From a high window, Tsurugi scoffs, comparing their drill to a sports club. He listens as two knights complain that their new captain, Jivan, is too strict. The other argues they must train hard to match the legendary Rotten and Goliath. They whisper that Dokkum's faction has grown bolder since Messiah's death. One recounts being scolded by Rotten while Dokkum was causing trouble nearby. He complains that Dokkum is trying to take over their entire corps. Tsurugi learns that Messiah was likely assassinated, not killed in an accident. A third knight frantically shushes them, fearing they will be overheard and fired. Tsurugi smirks, hearing them also gossip about the amazing Onajirai at the guild. He realizes Dokkum's network of allies is far larger than he first thought. His initial reconnaissance complete, he walks along a sunlit outdoor corridor. His quiet footsteps echo as he moves through the mansion grounds. He stops abruptly, sensing a presence just around the corner. A young fox-skin boy holds a ball, lost in a dreamlike memory of his brother. Tsurugi recognizes the boy from Canon stories, identifying him as Claude. Claude spots him and calls out for his mother in surprise. An elegant fox-eared woman approaches, greeting Tsurugi with a polite smile. Tsurugi returns the greeting and asks who the woman with her is. She introduces herself as Alinia, Rotten's wife, and the boy as their son, Claude. Claude gives a deep, formal bow, introducing himself to a surprised Tsurugi. The other woman explains they visit often to cheer up the grieving family. She is Alicia, a friend of Alinia's father and Earl Ficel's daughter. Alinia smiles warmly, extending a hand in a gesture of friendship. The name Ficel instantly connects in Tsurugi's mind, revealing the conspiracy. Alicia explains they are about to have breakfast and invites them all to join. She turns her invitation to Tsurugi, asking if he will eat with them. At breakfast, Tsurugi finds himself surrounded by the key players in the plot. He feels Beal's presence, a silent acknowledgement from his servant. Alinia asks if something is wrong, but Tsurugi casually brushes it off. He internally analyzes the complex web of relationships at the table. Alinia explains that the Rotten family is a branch of the main Ibisu house. Tsurugi quickly deduces that Claude is the next heir to the family. Alinia playfully suggests that Claude might marry Ari to secure the inheritance. A flustered Claude protests that he is completely unworthy of a princess. Alinia laughs at her son's embarrassment, telling him to stop teasing Ari. A subtle, knowing look passes between the two noblewomen. Tsurugi watches their polite exchange with cold, calculating eyes. Delgaroius arrives at the table, greeting his family with a smug air. He notes that Alteria's and the others are just starting their breakfast. The maid Hannah reports that Kanon did not answer when called from her room. Alteria's expresses her disappointment that Kanon will not be joining them. Tsurugi states confidently that Kanon wasn't killed, as he would have sensed it. Hannah approaches Tsurugi's seat, offering to pour him a glass of water. As she pours, Tsurugi's gaze is sharp, his senses on high alert. His appraisal skill flashes, revealing his water is poisoned while others are not. Again. He thinks, calmly wiping his mouth with a napkin. Hannah notices his thoughtful stare and asks if something is wrong. Tsurugi's sharp gaze remains fixed on the maid, his mind racing. Ari asks what's wrong, suggesting he should call for Kanon again. Tsurugi deflects, saying it's a private matter not worth discussing now. Delgaroius smirks at him, asking how the investigation is proceeding. Alteria's explains to Alicia that Tsurugi is handling the reinvestigation. The women apologize for intruding during such a serious time. Alicia expresses her relief that their visit hasn't been an inconvenience. Tsurugi reports vaguely that he has found a few loose threads to pull on. Alteria's and Claude both express their unwavering faith in his abilities. After the meal, Alicia calls out to Tsurugi from the garden. Claude runs up to Tsurugi, his expression earnest, wanting to speak. He asks if there is anything he can do to help find Dalt's killer. Claude passionately declares his dream to become a knight and protect his family. His eyes burn with a fierce, unwavering determination. He speaks of his deep love for his brother and vows to catch the killer. Claude worries that Altarias is being targeted and he must protect her. Tsurugi looks down at the small, determined boy, thinking he appears weak. He reflects internally on the powerful bond between siblings. Claude looks up at him, awaiting a response to his passionate plea. Tsurugi returns to his room to find Kanon still fast asleep on the couch. He stares down at her sleeping, drooling form with a deadpan expression. His patience gone, he splashes her awake with his spring water skill. An eager voice announces that they have been waiting for the arrival of Lord Sumeragi. The merchant Seidel, his eyes sparkling, tells Tsurugi there's one more thing to discuss. A cheerful cat girl suggests they should find a cute new outfit for Kanon. Tsurugi is jokingly called a pervert, though the outfit's performance is acknowledged. With a sigh, Tsurugi decides to accept the chaotic but well-meaning situation. Tsurugi informs Seidel that he needs to step out by himself for a little while. Seidel confidently promises that he will take good care of everything in his absence. The scene shifts to a view of the rustling treetops beneath a cloudy sky. Tsurugi stands with his towering lich servant, Beals, musing Kanon would faint. Beals presents the filthy, scattered bones of what it identifies as 3 people. The lich confirms these are Dalt's killers, their bodies disposed of by monsters. Tsurugi observes that the bones alone will not be enough to serve as proof. Beals, its single eye glowing, confidently tells its master to leave it to him. Back at the store, Kanon is being happily fussed over in a lovely new dress. Tsurugi returns to the store and is promptly presented with the expensive bill. While walking, Tsurugi asks Kanon why she isn't wearing her new outfit. She explains it is a precious gift from him that she doesn't want to ruin. Tsurugi listens quietly, humming in understanding of her heartfelt sentiment. As they enter a narrow alley, Tsurugi is struck by a sudden, irritating feeling. An assassin with wolf features lunges from the shadows, a knife aimed at Kanon. Kanon reacts instantly, her battle suit deflecting the blade with a sharp clang. Tsurugi's eyes widen with alarm as he shouts out Kanon's name. The assassin is thrown off balance as Tsurugi rushes to intercept the attack. Kanon is shocked she wasn't stabbed, her first thought being for her clothes. The assassin identifies Tsurugi and declares that he must die. Tsurugi recognizes the recurring danger and orders Kanon to get back. The wolfkin assassin ignores him, charging forward to press his assault. Kanon, enraged, defends the precious clothes her master gifted her with a powerful punch. Tsurugi and his ethereal animal companions are stunned by her use of physical force. A second assassin, a catkin, recovers from his shock and lunges with a sword. Kanon fearlessly parries the blade with her giant scissors, her expression fierce. The attacker is shocked by her skill, realizing she is no ordinary girl. Kanon unleashes a fire javelin spell, engulfing her foes in magical flames. One of the assassins screams in agony as he is consumed by the fireballs. Another tries to defend himself with a magic shield, but it quickly shatters. Kanon then casts wood magic, ensnaring the remaining attackers in thorny vines. The trapped assassin cries for help, demanding to know why they are being targeted. Tsurugi explains it is to silence Kanon, revealing the earlier poisoning attempt. A dark aura swirls around Tsurugi as his powerful lich, Beals, materializes. Tsurugi holds up a sealed letter, declaring that all the evidence is now his. Kanon looks up at him, a bit startled by the sudden and dramatic turn of events. With the proof in hand, he announces their return to the Ibisu mansion. The grand Ibisu mansion looms, the stage now set for the final confrontation. Delgaroius storms into the library, furiously demanding to know if they found the killer. The family's retainers, including the stoic Goliath and Rotten, stand waiting. A knight attempts to stop Delgaroius, telling him to wait before the master's door. Tsurugi, lounging in a chair, greets the nobleman with a taunting question. Delgaroius glares back, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. The nobleman is visibly flustered, shocked by Tsurugi's casual insolence. Kanon winces, feeling the immense tension between her master and the nobleman. Rotten stands with Goliath, preparing to address the unfolding situation. Tsurugi remains perfectly composed, his hand resting calmly on his katana. Rotten asks about Tsurugi's wife, but he cryptically mentions her training. He dismisses the need to summon her, leaving Rotten momentarily confused. Altarias takes charge, and Tsurugi demands everyone swear to listen quietly. Goliath and Rotten confirm that all present will take the oath as commanded. The assembled knights and retainers look on with grim, serious expressions. All right then, Tsurugi says, snapping his fingers to begin the grand revelation. The towering lich, Beelze, materializes behind him, its dark power filling the room. The guards are startled by the sudden appearance, their bodies tensing for battle. The immense, shadowy form of the lich looms over the entire assembly. Rotten stares intently, recognizing the powerful and unsettling aura from before. Denga cries out to his master, warning him about the summoned monster. Altierias feels the familiar presence, sensing that the creature is not a threat. The lich, speaking with Ari's voice, thanks Altierias and introduces itself as Beelze. Beelze explains that it acts on the command of its master's very life force. Using its unique power, Beelze summons the ethereal spirit of the boy, Dalch. Altierias cries out in shock, asking if the spirit is truly him. Tsurugi confirms it is Dalch's soul, summoned by Beelze's necromantic skill. Kanon and Altierias are stunned, unable to believe a soul could be summoned back. To prove its identity, Altierias begins to question the spirit about his life. She asks him to recall the color of the ball he often played with. The spirit correctly answers that it was green, like Kanon's hair ornament. She asks for his deceased mother's name, and he replies, Monica Ibasu. Delgaroius clasps his hands, his expression confirming the spirit's authenticity. The family is overcome with emotion, Altierias weeping as her son's spirit prays. The spirit laments that he couldn't protect them, wishing he had died instead. He pleads with his family to be strong and live long, happy lives for him. Even the hardened guards, Goliath and Rotten, are visibly moved to tears. Tsurugi interrupts the emotional reunion, asking if he may proceed with his story. Delgaroius's hand trembles as he wipes a tear from his eye. He apologizes for the interruption and gives Tsurugi permission to continue. Tsurugi turns his attention to the spirit, calling out Dalch's name. The spirit of the young boy turns to face him, with Kanon watching nervously. Tsurugi asks the boy to identify the person who was responsible for his death. The spirit first turns to Kanon, asking if she is there in the room. He then clarifies that she was not the one who attacked or killed him. Dalch recounts being lured out and ambushed by 3 men he didn't know. He explains that Kanon arrived later and tried desperately to save his life. His memory ends there, as he lost consciousness in Kanon's arms. Delgaroius explodes with rage, accusing Tsurugi of summoning a fake to deceive them. He angrily declares that he is the one speaking with Lord Sumeragi now. Tsurugi calmly states that he knows the 3 attackers were from the slums. Delgaroius orders Goliath to the slums, but Tsurugi tells him to listen fully. He explains the men are gone, but Delgaroius assumes they simply escaped. No, Tsurugi says coolly, summoning an illusion of the 3 assassins. Kanon stares, her eyes wide with shock and horrified recognition. She identifies the men as the ones who called her to the scene that tragic day. The entire assembly looks on, stunned, as the final, shocking truth is revealed. Delgaroius snarls, his face contorted in pure rage at the undeniable proof. A knight named Jivan is sent flying by a powerful punch. Delgaroius and his guards stand ready, shouting about Dalch's murder. Tsurugi calmly dismisses their efforts, saying the targets are already dead. Ari tells a shocked Kanon that using swords against them is pointless. Delgaroius roars that he cannot suppress his rage at his son's killer. Tsurugi rises from his seat, announcing that their discussion is finished. He states that he stopped the culprits, prompting Ari to ask who they are. Tsurugi asks if anyone besides the 3 assassins was involved in the murder. He then questions the spirit of Dalch about who lured him outside. Tsurugi turns to the assassins' ghosts, demanding to know who gave the order. He commands all the spirits to point if the mastermind is present. A close-up reveals multiple ghostly arms and fingers pointing in unison. Their spectral accusation converges on a single, terrified man, the knight, Jivan. Goliath, his face a mask of shock, bellows Jivan's name in disbelief. Tsurugi repeats his questions to the spirits in the darkened, tense room. Again, he commands the ghosts to point out the one responsible for everything. Jivan's face is shown, his expression one of shock and utter denial. He desperately pleads his innocence to his lord, calling it a conspiracy. Rotten and Goliath tell him they will hear his story somewhere else. Jivan begs them to believe him over the ghosts, insisting it is a misunderstanding. He screams that he has done nothing as he makes a break for it. Cornered, Jivan grits his teeth and draws his sword, lunging forward in desperation. His attack is met with a powerful, bone-jarring punch from another knight. Jivan cries out in agony from the force of the stunning blow. Delgaroius furiously warns the traitor not to think he can escape. Pinned to the floor, Jivan screams that trying to run proves his guilt. Suddenly, his eyes widen in abject terror as a dark power takes hold. He lets out a choked gasp, his body arching in unnatural pain. Black, bone-like spikes erupt from within Jivan's body, brutally impaling him. Goliath, horrified, explains he was just restraining him when it happened suddenly. Delgaroius looks on, completely baffled by the gruesome and unexpected event. The nobleman Denga steps forward, addressing Delgaroius by his other name, Dokkum. He claims he was capturing Dalt's killer but accidentally struck a vital point. Goliath lets out a furious "ha" at Denga's pathetic and obvious excuse. Denga smugly boasts that he had already neutralized Jivan's ability to use magic. Tsurugi muses that perhaps he should have let them finish their slow incantations. Calling Denga a fool, he prepares to throw a simple paper airplane. He lets the paper fly, asking Denga what he thinks it could be. The paper airplane glides silently through the air toward the assembled nobles. The imposing spirit of the Lich Beals looms over Jivan's dead body. Tsurugi explains that the dead can be recalled, and their souls cannot lie. Denga panics, calling out to Lord Dokkum as his entire plan unravels. Tsurugi invites Delgaroius to question the spirits, as his judgment is required. Delgaroius's eyes narrow with grim determination to finally learn the truth. He asks Jivan's ghost who gave the order to murder his son, Dalch. The spirit points directly at Denga, identifying him as the one responsible. Jivan's ghost explains he was promised a promotion for his cooperation. Denga clicks his tongue in frustration, his conspiracy completely exposed. In a last-ditch effort, he grabs the maid Hannah, holding her hostage. Hannah's eyes are wide with terror as Denga holds her in a chokehold. The knights and guards can only watch in shock at the desperate act. Tsurugi calmly asks if the life of a single maid is worth protecting. Denga is momentarily stunned by the question, muttering a confused, "Huh?" Goliath coldly agrees that sacrificing one maid is a small price to pay. Cannon, her fangs bared, snarls that she will never let him kill Hannah. Denga tightens his grip, warning Hannah she knows what happens if she disobeys. Terrified, Hannah can only stammer a choked "no" in response. Rotten appears, telling Denga not to pay her any mind. Denga screams at her to be quiet and tries to drag Hannah away. Hannah's feet are shown being pulled across the polished stone floor. Suddenly, Hannah confesses that Denga threatened her and is the true sinner. She begs Delgaroius to ignore her and strike the traitor down. A close-up shows the blur of Denga's sword swinging in a murderous arc. Denga screams at Rotten and Goliath as he brings his blade down. Rotten moves in a flash, her own sword intercepting Denga's attack. Dark magical energy explodes from the impact, splashing across Hannah's face. Rotten's expression is one of cold fury as she holds back the attack. A massive sound effect emphasizes the powerful clash of enchanted steel. In the chaotic aftermath, Hannah is on the ground, wounded by the backlash. She touches her bleeding cheek, her eyes wide with shock and pain. Delgaroius panics over his own bleeding arm, crying that he is going to die. Rotten furiously demands to know what the maid thinks she has done. She pins Denga, asking if he understands the consequences of defying her. Hannah, though wounded, glares and utters Denga's name with pure contempt. Delgaroius stands over the defeated Denga, accusing him of orchestrating the murder. Delgaroius offers a pained apology to his lord for his grave failure. He explains that this man, Denga, was the one who arranged everything. Denga desperately shouts that the testimony of a soul and a maid is worthless. He insists that no one will believe them and that the trial is pointless. He continues to shout, frantically trying to find an excuse to save himself. Tsurugi, holding the paper airplane, ironically calls out his own title, Samurai Dano. He asks Delgaroius if he is merely playing games in this dire situation. Cannon watches the airplane fly past, wondering what is written on the paper. Ari catches the paper airplane, noticing that it has writing on it. She identifies it as a letter from Dokkum, noting the elegant penmanship. Delgaroius reads the letter, recognizing the plan to kill the little fox. Rotten furiously slams Delgaroius to the floor, demanding to know what he's done. Ari's eyes fill with tears as she reads the letter's damning contents. Delgaroius, in utter shock, recognizes the handwriting as belonging to the Baron. He realizes with horror that the script belongs to none other than Eris Ficel. Lying defeated on the floor, he wonders how the letter got here. Tsurugi looks down, stating that Delgaroius has just admitted his guilt. He reveals the entire conspiracy was planned by Countess Eris Ficel. Delgaroius asks why they went to such lengths when the murder attempt failed. Tsurugi explains the next phase of the plan was on a different paper. He reads from the letter, detailing the plot to assassinate Altierias. Goliath recalls the carriage attack, realizing it was a planned assassination attempt. Delgaroius is horrified to learn of the plot for a Ficel successor. A shot of the young boy Claude implies he is the only one. Tsurugi reads the letter's opening, "To my precious niece, Alicia." Delgaroius cradles his dying wife, Rotten, as she whispers the names of her loved ones. The 16th chapter begins, showing the grieving nobleman Delgaroius sitting alone in a somber room. In a memory, a young Claude peeks into a room, asking his mother what is wrong. Claude explains his mother wants him to marry Altiherias, but Alicia sighs, knowing Dolch is the true heir. With boyish determination, Claude declares he wants to be a great knight like his father. In the present, Tsurugi addresses the broken Rotten, as the entire household looks on. Rotten glares at her husband, Delgaroius, hysterically asking if he was aware of the conspiracy. Her world shatters as she whispers the name of the true mastermind, Alicia. A shadowy assassin lunges from a doorway, dagger in hand, as a maid cries out. Altiherias and Cannon shout a warning to Rotten as the attack unfolds with shocking speed. Tsurugi turns, his hand on his sword, as Altiherias calls out to him to wait. A sunnier memory shows a younger Rotten and Claude sparring in a courtyard as Alicia watches. Young Claude happily greets his imposing grandfather, Rotten's father, as he arrives. The boy's cheerful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a look of intimidated silence. Rotten, clad in armor, formally addresses her father, also mentioning her mother, Alicia. Her father sternly questions Alicia, asking if she too was involved in this matter. He gives Rotten a simple, unyielding command to follow him. He declares that it is her duty to serve the Ibisu family. In the present, young Claude bravely intercepts the assassin's attack with his small practice sword. The boy is no match for the skilled attacker and is thrown across the stone courtyard. He lands hard with a sickening thud, and Rotten screams his name in terror. Rotten stumbles, clutching her own wound, her face a mask of pain and fury. Her father stands over Alicia and Claude, sword raised, as Alicia pleads, asking why. He coldly warns Claude to get back, telling him he will be cut down if he interferes. A memory of Rotten's own vow flashes through her mind, a knight must protect the weak. Another knight pleads with Rotten to stop, warning her of the extreme danger. Consumed by her duty and love, Rotten struggles against her pain, determined to act. Claude, bruised but defiant, stands his ground, shielding his mother with his small body. Ignoring all warnings, Rotten's focus is solely on protecting her beloved son. She throws herself in front of Claude, becoming a human shield against her father's wrath. She apologizes to her son, who whispers, "Father," identifying the man she is protecting him from. Her father's sword slams into the ground, shattering the stone beside them. He kneels, his own sword broken, his stern will finally broken by his daughter's love. The household watches in shock as he offers a final, somber apology for his actions. He presents his broken sword in a gesture of utter surrender and defeat. He accepts responsibility for the tragic end of his foolish daughter's life. Declaring he will atone with his own life, he is consumed by a torrent of dark energy. Claude watches in absolute terror as his grandfather begins a fatal self-sacrifice. The boy screams as a powerful blast of energy erupts from the sacrifice. He rushes to his father's side, who has been caught in the devastating magical blast. He cradles his father's bloody, broken body, screaming his name in anguish. A knight, his face pale with panic, frantically orders someone to summon a healer. Cannon watches the chaos unfold, with Tsurugi standing impassively behind her. She turns to Tsurugi, her eyes pleading for guidance in this desperate moment. Tsurugi meets her gaze with a firm expression, giving his unspoken permission for her to act. Cannon's eyes narrow with fierce determination, she knows what she must do. She rushes into the fray as another woman calls out her name in surprise. Kneeling by the dying man, she knows her level 25 power is hopelessly insufficient. She closes her eyes, focusing all her will and magic for one desperate gamble. She unleashes a powerful, forbidden spell, crying out its name, Extra Heal. A brilliant golden light erupts from her, engulfing the courtyard and the mansion's spires. The blinding, pure energy of the healing spell washes over the wounded man. The light illuminates the entire estate, a beacon of miraculous power. The onlookers, Delgaroius, Goliath, and the maids, stare in utter, stunned disbelief. One of them recognizes the advanced recovery magic, shocked that Cannon had learned it. As the light fades, Claude watches Cannon gently cradle his now healed father. Cannon reassures the boy that his father is fine, merely unconscious for now. Overwhelmed with profound relief, tears of joy stream down young Claude's face. Alicia, watching from the side, lets out a sob, whispering her husband's name. Delgaroius confronts her, stating that her uncle, Eris Ficel, orchestrated Dolch's murder. Alicia's face contorts in shock and horror as the direct accusation sinks in. She collapses to the ground, bowing her head and offering a desperate, sobbing apology. She confesses that she only learned the truth after Dolch was already dead. Delgaroius recounts how her uncle manipulated him, leaving him no choice but to become the successor. He roars in raw fury and grief at the memory of his own powerlessness. He turns his rage on Goliath, declaring that it is time to prepare for war. Claude bravely steps between them, pleading with his father to stop the violence. Goliath's face is a mask of grief as he thinks of the fallen Dalch. A woman cries out, asking why they must go to war, which will only bring suffering. Claude echoes this sentiment, declaring he doesn't want the people of Algria to suffer. Canon whispers Tsurugi's name, asking him to bring forth the spirit he summoned. The ghost of Dalch appears, explaining he returned to save the falsely accused. Delgaroius stares in disbelief, asking how this can possibly be happening. Tsurugi confirms that their purpose was to find the real culprit and save Canon. Canon, overjoyed and crying, tells Dalch she heard everything from Tsurugi. The spirit of Dalch smiles warmly and thanks Canon for all her efforts. He tells her that Rotten was saved because of her, so she has nothing to apologize for. He gently asks her to smile, and through her tears, she gives a radiant, happy smile. Tsurugi and the spirit share a moment of quiet, smiling understanding. The spirit says he is glad he could say a final farewell to everyone. He asks his family to continue protecting their precious town and its people. His final plea for them to keep protecting the city echoes over a peaceful image of Algria. Delgaroius clenches his bandaged fist, cursing his powerlessness and the situation. He laments that if only that man, Tsurugi, had never come to their town. He seethes with resentment, blaming Tsurugi for completely upending his world. The chapter ends with Tsurugi visible through a window, having overheard the nobleman's lament. Tsurugi stands at the window, stating that he never wanted to come to this place. He thinks that with this resolved, he must quickly move on to defeat his true enemies. Altierius gently holds Canon's chin, telling her that this is their final farewell. She declares that Canon is now, finally, a free woman. Canon is speechless, her mind unable to process her sudden, unexpected freedom. The merchant Seidel arrives, cheerfully announcing he has new clothes prepared for her. Canon looks at the package, recognizing her old, tattered dress inside. A catgirl maid explains that Tsurugi had it repaired and magically enhanced for her. Canon holds the restored dress, whispering that her master did this for her. She clutches the precious gift to her chest, overwhelmed with gratitude and emotion. Delgaroius, now composed, formally thanks Tsurugi for all of his invaluable help. Tsurugi sips his tea, recounting how Dokum's confession led to the arrest of 20 conspirators. He notes that with Rotten resigning, the family is in no state to wage war. Delgaroius agrees, stating that Dalch stopped him, and he will instead report the crimes to the royalty. In a quiet chamber, Altierius states that the recovered letter alone is not enough. She tells Tsurugi she's certain more proof exists against the notoriously corrupt heiress. Tsurugi coolly deduces that she wants him to gather this additional evidence. With a hardened expression, Altierius confirms that is exactly her request. She offers an incredible 30 million gold to borrow his and Beel's power again. Tsurugi reflects that such a fortune is meaningless if one loses their life. He looks back at her, simply asking if her incredible offer is real. Altierius slams her hands down decisively, declaring that she is counting on him. Tsurugi reveals a thick stack of papers, asking what she thinks they are. He explains it is damning evidence of Heiress Ficel's many secret, illegal activities. He adds that his powerful servant, Beels, was able to retrieve the documents. Tsurugi declares the request complete, leaving a stunned Altierius to process the news. He confirms the job is finished while collecting a massive sack of gold. With the business settled, Altierius turns the conversation to Canon's future. Delgaroius explains Canon's old room awaits, ready for her to return anytime. He adds that his sister, Altierius, is also eagerly awaiting Canon's homecoming. In the garden, Altierius takes Canon's hands, joyfully welcoming her back. Canon, with a gentle smile, offers her sincere thanks to the noblewoman. Altierius fusses over her, offering refreshments and mentioning her reinstatement papers. She tells Canon that her father is waiting in the reception room with the documents. Two young beastkin girls suddenly burst in, happily calling out to their father. They run towards Delgaroius, completing the picture of a happy, reunited family. Amidst the celebration, Canon looks back toward Tsurugi with a conflicted expression. She makes a stunning announcement, declaring her wish to follow her master, Tsurugi. A shocked Altierius asks Canon what she could possibly be saying. Tsurugi reminds her their contract is over, but Canon begs to become his slave again. He silently considers that if he leaves her, he will be truly alone. Canon explains she fears leaving him alone with the cold darkness she sees in him. She turns to a silent Tsurugi, pleading for him to let her join his journey. He asks if she understands his path, she only knows it is something terrifying. When he asks if she will still follow, she gives an unwavering yes. Kanon vows to stay by his side, even if the world and God become his enemies. Tsurugi is struck silent, stunned by her absolute and profound loyalty. Tsurugi asks Rotten if she is truly fine with how things have turned out. Delgaroius sadly recalls the promise he and his wife once made to never part. Ari chides Kanon, saying a lady should not have to endure such public shame. Ari cheerfully hugs Kanon, promising to send her back if she becomes a burden. Delgaroius admits this new arrangement presents a problem, and Ari agrees with him. As Tsurugi and Kanon share a questioning look, a knock sounds at the door. Goliath and an official present the shackled Hana as Kanon's replacement, shocking everyone. Delgaroius explains Hana's crime, revealing she was the one who tried to kill him. He calls her a pitiful victim, forced to act because Dokkan held her sister hostage. Ari begs Tsurugi for mercy, insisting Hana is not evil but acted for her sister. The word sister resonates deeply with Tsurugi, making him pause and reflect. Tsurugi turns the difficult decision over to Kanon, who is shocked to be asked. Kanon hesitates, struggling with the morality of forgiving someone who attempted murder. She looks down in thought, a single word signaling a change in her perspective. Kanon realizes that refusal means condemning Hana to a cruel death through slave labor. She recalls her own despair, deceived and abandoned with no hope of being saved. With newfound conviction, she declares that she cannot allow Hana to suffer that fate. Hana makes a bold offer: if Tsurugi refuses, she will purchase Hana's freedom herself. Tsurugi finally agrees to the arrangement, bringing immense joy to Kanon and Ari. He turns to Hana, asking if she truly has no problem working for him now. Hana meets his gaze with solemn resolve and firmly agrees to serve him. Pledging her life to him, Hana watches as a delighted Kanon hugs Tsurugi's arm. Delgaroius reflects on the irony of Kanon becoming a slave again, if only formally. Delgaroius furiously threatens Tsurugi, who just smiles at his lack of understanding. Seidel the merchant bursts in, eagerly offering supplies for their impending journey. The girls gather, with Ari noting that there are still matters to attend to. As Hana stands by his side, Tsurugi is stopped by Delgaroius's final request. Delgaroius formally asks Tsurugi for another favor, this one concerning his army. He asks Tsurugi to share his incredible fighting skills and train his soldiers. He hopes that through this, he can begin to mend his broken family ties. Young Claude brings a lunch tray to a closed door, sent by his grandmother. Inside, a despairing Delgaroius hides his face as his son calls out to him. The young boy waits silently before his father's door, receiving no reply. A nervous twitch of a furry ear broke the mansion's heavy silence. Young Claude peeked through the doors, hesitantly answering the unseen arrival. Tsurugi offered a cool greeting, flanked by his loyal female companions. The boy's eyes widened as he recognized the imposing figure before him. Tsurugi immediately asked for Rotten, but Claude directed him to his father. Without another word, he ascended the grand staircase toward the second floor. A blur of motion preceded a powerful, resounding impact. He kicked the door clean off its hinges with explosive force. Inside, the broken Lord, Delgaroius, looked up with weary resignation. He began to explain his difficult task of strengthening the knightly order. His face twisted in frustration as he declared the knights utterly pathetic. Tsurugi grabbed him by the collar, demanding he train his own subordinates. His grip tightened, a silent testament to his unyielding will. From below, Claude and a small girl watched the confrontation with fear. The young boy tried to reassure himself that everything would be all right. But Kanon and Hana simply smiled, asking him to trust their master. Despite their words, a shadow of worry still clouded the boy's face. Delgaroius turned away, his expression a mask of pure, utter shame. Downstairs, the knights wailed for their captain, desperate for his return. He confessed his own weakness, believing he was nothing without Rotten's strength. Suddenly, a large, reassuring hand came to rest on his shoulder. Goliath reminded him that his strength was needed to lead the corps now. The loyal guard insisted that the entire family was awaiting his return. But the disgraced lord remained hesitant, consumed by his own doubt. He believed Dalt's death was his fault, disqualifying him from service. Kanon and Hana looked on with concern, sensing Tsurugi's rising anger. Tsurugi finally exploded, furious at this display of self-pity. Goliath told him he was free to leave, but Delgaroius was stunned. Tsurugi then commanded Delgaroius to join them and share his skills. Goliath declared the training had begun, their destination was Bolf Great Forest. Meanwhile, in the distant Luxentale kingdom, another story was unfolding. A summoned hero was brutally slammed into the hard-packed training ground. An instructor loomed over him, declaring him too weak for the demon lord. On a sterile stairwell, Ichinos heals a weary hero while their handler complains and demands silence. A weary hero slumps against a pillar, thanking an equally exhausted Ichinos for healing him. Ichinos internally despairs over being summoned and forced into grueling daily training. The constant strain becomes too much, and Ichinos suddenly collapses from exhaustion. Her friend Miki catches her, worriedly telling her not to push herself too hard. Ichinos insists she is fine, sadly noting that healing is her only useful skill. She watches the hero depart, lamenting that only 2 from Tsurugi's group remain. Miki gently asks if Ichinos is worried about the boy who just left. Miki reassures her, certain that he will be fine thanks to his S-rank luck. Ichinos finds her resolve, vowing to look her best for her reunion with Tsurugi. Tsurugi stands impassively as the Ibisu Knights train in the dangerous forest. A beast drags away one of the knights, who screams Tsurugi's name in terror. Kanon voices her concern for the knights, but Tsurugi dismissively says they'll manage. Hana eagerly asks to join the brutal training, but Tsurugi tells her to wait. He announces that he and Hana are leaving to rescue her captured sister. Tsurugi points towards the distant Fiesel mansion, confirming it as their target. Hana asks if he is sure about risking himself for someone like her. She hardens her resolve, determined to repay the debt for her sister's rescue. Hana formally thanks her master for his incredible kindness and determination. Tsurugi and Hana activate their concealment skills, preparing to infiltrate the mansion. Kanon watches in a panic as her 2 companions suddenly vanish into thin air. Tsurugi reappears, handing Kanon a magical coat that will render her invisible. Now completely unseen, the trio walks right past the oblivious Fiesel mansion guards. They enter a gaudy hall, disgusted by a tasteless statue of the Lord himself. Tsurugi remarks that the decor is even more vulgar than Sonya had described. Hana's anxiety grows as she desperately asks where her sister is being held. From the oppressive shadows, the glowing, ethereal eyes of Beals appear. Beals reports that Sonya is in the dungeon, in a room he cannot enter. The group follows the lich down a dark, winding staircase into the dungeon. Hana cries out her sister's name upon finding her collapsed inside a cell. She desperately tries to pull the unyielding iron bars apart with her hands. Tsurugi activates his brute strength skill and easily bends the bars open. Hana cradles her sister, stopping Kanon from using magic that might alert others. Tsurugi decides their first priority is to get Sonya safely out of the mansion. In the courtyard, Hana gently holds her unconscious sister in a protective embrace. Sonya's eye flutters open, a faint sound of recognition escaping her lips. Looking directly at Tsurugi, she whispers a familiar name from his past, Ayumu. The name triggers a painful memory of a younger Tsurugi, weeping in despair. Tsurugi is stunned into silence, his stoic composure completely shattered by the name. Kanon looks back over her shoulder, confused by the unfamiliar name Sonya uttered. Tsurugi looks down at the 2 sisters, a storm of emotions churning within him. In another realm, a goddess praises Tsurugi's progress since his chaotic summoning. She reflects on the gentle peace of her world, a stark contrast to his reality. She recalls regretting her long pursuit of a cowardly hero from a past era. A vision shows her world collapsing, forcing a desperate summoning from another world. She explains the ancient ritual, a necessary evil to protect her world from ruin. An attendant reports that among the 108 summoned souls, one is an unknown variable. The goddess recalls giving Tsurugi cooking skills and maxing his luck to help him survive. Tsurugi's voice echoes, demanding she appear and help him punish the corrupt gods. The goddess fiercely declares she will offer him her full cooperation and power. A knowing, almost mischievous smile spreads across the powerful goddess's face. Back in the present, Tsurugi and Kanon have returned to Seidel's general store. The impressive facade of Seidel's large establishment stands against the sky. Another beast girl maid brings fresh water and a towel for the recovering Sonya. Hana keeps a watchful vigil, sitting by her sister's bedside through the night. Nearby, Tsurugi and Kanon rest fitfully in armchairs, waiting for Sonya to recover. Tsurugi is lost in thought, a deeply pained expression on his face. His mind drifts back to his quiet, unassuming suburban home on Earth. A younger Tsurugi, home from school, calls out as he enters the empty house. He finds a note from his family and recognizes a familiar cooking smell. Lifting the pot lid, he realizes his mother used the wrong seasonings again. He decides to secretly fix the meal before the rest of his family returns. He stirs the bubbling pot, carefully correcting the flavor of the soup. Humming a cheerful tune, he continues to cook in the sunlit kitchen. The house phone rings, and he answers, identifying himself as Sumeragi. He holds the receiver to his ear, his expression calm and unsuspecting. The ladle falls from his numb fingers as he hears of a traffic accident. He stands alone before 3 caskets, hearing his family died in a collision. He remembers his 2 mothers and his sister Ayumu, a truly happy family. The memory ends with his younger self weeping, lost and utterly alone. Back in the present, Tsurugi is lost in his grief while Kanon watches quietly. Kanon gently informs him that Sonya has finally woken up from her slumber. Kanon looks at him with deep concern, sensing his profound, lingering sadness. He tells her not to worry, turning to go see the now conscious Sonya. He pauses for a moment, stealing his expression before entering the room. Hana greets him with relief and gratitude as he and Kanon enter the room. Sonya, now sitting up, thanks him and Kanon for reuniting her with her sister. Tsurugi listens to her thanks, his expression remaining stoic and unreadable. He cuts her off, insisting she forget her thanks and eat the food he brought. Steam infused with his ultimate cooking, a skill rises magically from the bowl. He explains it's a simple, digestible dish from his homeland, perfect for her. Both sisters thank him, moved by his thoughtful gesture and culinary care. Sonya holds the tray on her lap, looking down at the simple porridge. She lifts a spoonful of the steaming porridge to her lips to eat. Tsurugi holds the spoon, offering her the first bite of the healing meal. She takes a small, tentative bite from the spoon he holds out for her. Her eyes widen in delight as she exclaims how delicious the porridge is. Kanon is delighted by the flavor, encouraging her sister to eat more. Sonya eats happily, thinking how much Kanon resembles the deceased Ayumu. Tsurugi recalls the painful memory of seeing Ayumu's cold, lifeless body. Sonya wonders if otherworldly summoning is real, and what that might imply. Tsurugi notices her strange expression and asks her what's on her mind. He directly asks her if she knows of a country called Japan. She denies it, explaining she only sees illusions and dreams of other places. Hana confirms they are twins who have been together since the womb. Tsurugi concludes it must just be a coincidence that she resembles another person. Kanon follows him out, asking why he would ask such a strange question. He apologizes for his odd question and urges them to finish their meal. As he turns to leave, the sisters call out for him to wait. He walks down the grand staircase, with a concerned Kanon following behind. Kanon calls out to her master as she follows him down the stairs. Kanon approaches Tsurugi, noting he has seemed odd since meeting her sister, Sonya. Turning away, Tsurugi quietly asks if she would like him to explain. He lets out a soft sound of agreement, prepared to speak his mind. He explains she simply looked like someone he once knew, dismissing it. Kanon looks downcast, quietly asking if that was all it was. Tsurugi changes the subject, announcing they are now heading to the Bolf Great Forest. He adds that they must hurry to meet up with Rotten and the others. Pausing, he promises Kanon that he will tell her everything when the time comes. Tsurugi's expression is set with grim determination as he looks forward. Kanon watches him go, her face a mask of quiet concern and acceptance. With a final, quiet word, Tsurugi affirms their new path forward. The dense, dark canopy of the Bolf Great Forest looms before them. Within the woods, Goliath roars at the Ibisu Knights, telling them to prepare. He bellows at his troops, warning them that to retreat is to die. The knights fight with renewed purpose, shouting with pride in the Ibisu name. Tsurugi and Kanon observe from a high branch as the knights battle monsters. A knight screams that they are fighting for the very honor of House Ibisu. The knights are shown in a desperate battle against a shadowy, tentacled beast. They roar in triumph as system notifications announce that they have leveled up. A massive, dark-feathered great bird descends upon the celebrating knights. One of the knights gratefully thanks Lord Sumeragi for his invaluable guidance. He boasts that now, with everyone over level 100, they are fearless. Goliath declares they will have a feast upon their return, praising the bird's meat. A close-up reveals a knight's face, scarred but filled with fierce determination. The victorious knights march back toward the impressive architecture of the Ibisu estate. A cat-eared knight glances back at his blonde-haired comrade. One of the men calls out, seeing their leader, Captain Rotten, ahead. Standing before the mansion's gate, Tsurugi states that his role here is finished. A knight formally reports their success and safe return to the lord of the mansion. Rotten informs the lord that they are strong now and no longer need his power. Tsurugi interjects, pointing out that it wasn't only the knights who grew stronger. A nobleman states that this outcome is exactly as Lord Sumeragi predicted. Delgaroius muses that allowing such a high-level person to roam free is dangerous. He tells Rotten he doesn't care about her intentions of returning to the squad. Instead, he offers her command of a newly established patrol force, shocking her. He explains that bears have appeared near town, and he needs her to lead the hunt. A maid tries to speak up for Rotten, but Delgaroius curtly silences her. He says he has watched her since birth and losing such a promising knight is a shame. Goliath explodes in anger, shouting at Rotten to refuse the nobleman's offer. Rotten looks down, her thoughts turning to her son as she whispers Claude's name. She looks up, respectfully thanking the Lord for his consideration. Kneeling, Rotten pledges her life to him, vowing to be his sword. A young beastkin boy in a fine suit looks at a portrait. The camera pans across the ornate rooftops of the Ibisu mansion. The young boy, Sanya, beams with a wide, happy, and slightly feral smile. Sanya and her sister Hana feast, exclaiming how delicious Tsurugi's cooking is. Tsurugi observes them, remarking that Sanya seems energetic for someone recently imprisoned. Hana explains that their wolfkin heritage makes them resilient to hardship. She says they can survive on little, and Sanya was never in mortal danger. Sanya comically adds that she was just beaten up while asleep. Hana reveals the conspirators stripped their home bare, even taking the wallpaper. She says it's good Sanya is fine, as her sisters have already gotten revenge. Sanya cheers, excited that she will get to eat this well every day. Kanon suggests to Tsurugi that it would be safer for them to remain here. Sanya panics, asking if Tsurugi intends to leave her all alone. With huge, tear-filled eyes, Sanya pleads with her master to take her with him. Tsurugi sighs, defeated, admitting he supposes it can't be helped. A maid wonders aloud if Tsurugi has a fondness for young girls. Seidel's employee presents Hana and Sanya with custom new adventuring gear. Tsurugi's party, now fully assembled, stands ready as he asks if they're leaving. Altierias presents Tsurugi with a dagger, stating its crest makes him family. Kanon says her goodbyes, and Altierias tells her to visit anytime. Tsurugi casually agrees to return if he feels like it, and they turn to leave. Altierias pulls Kanon and the sisters into a tight, emotional group hug. She tells them to come back whenever they wish, as they are precious sisters to her. The girls tearfully agree, overwhelmed by her kindness and affection. Tsurugi looks on blankly while Sanya seems thrilled by the emotional farewell. A rabbit girl from Seidel's store presents them with provisions for their journey. Tsurugi, now leading his party of 4, asks if they are ready to depart. Kanon asks where they're going, and Tsurugi replies, the Bolf Great Forest. He explains that Hana and Sanya are a liability and require special training. Kanon sighs, lamenting leaving the town filled with cute, fluffy-eared people. Hana quietly gets her new master's attention. She and her sister Sanya offer their ears for him to pet. Tsurugi's eye twitches in clear annoyance at their playful gesture. He bluntly tells them to stop, as Kanon covers her own ears in solidarity. Sanya points to the sky, asking if the large creature is a great bird. The entire group looks up, their expressions a mix of surprise and concern. Tsurugi watches the bird intently as it soars through the cloudy sky. Kanon expresses her alarm, noting the creature shouldn't be so far in the forest. She wonders aloud why it is flying so close to a human settlement. Hana identifies its trajectory, shouting that it's heading for the town of Algria. The great bird flies purposefully over the landscape, the town visible in the distance. As Kanon worries for the town, Hana declares she will go and stop it. Kanon leaps into the air, unleashing a spell simply labeled Wind Magic. A barrage of dark fireballs streaks from her hands towards the massive bird. The powerful attack is identified as Fire Javelin as it flies. The spell erupts in a massive explosion against the creature's tough hide. Kanon's eye widens in shock as she realizes her attack had no effect. The great bird emerges from the smoke and fire completely unscathed. Kanon screams as the powerful shockwave sends her hurtling towards the ground. Moving in a blur, Tsurugi leaps and catches her safely in his arms. As Kanon thanks him, Hana and Sanya cheer for how cool she was. Hana suddenly shouts a warning, telling the others to look behind them. The sisters' eyes widen in sheer terror at what they see. 2 massive, tusked boars are charging directly towards them from the woods. The Lich Beals appears, having dispatched the boars, noting it was a close call. Beals reports that a large horde of monsters is gathering and heading their way. Tsurugi looks annoyed, finding it a pain that the knights he trained might be destroyed. He turns to Kanon, his expression serious, and tells her to prepare herself. Tsurugi stands ready, declaring they will intercept the monsters despite the unknown circumstances. Kanon bravely steps forward, ordering the younger Beastkin sisters to get behind her. She unleashes her magic with a powerful cry, commanding the monsters to be burned to ash. A massive flare storm erupts, scorching the earth and engulfing the approaching creatures. Hana holds her sister close, awestruck by the sheer power of Kanon's spell. As he fights, Tsurugi also calls out the name of the powerful, flare storm spell. Kanon marvels at her own strength, never imagining she could fight with such power. Sanya hopefully asks her sister if they too can become that strong through training. Tsurugi calls out to Hana and Sanya, signaling the beginning of their own trial. He informs them that they will also fight, as their special training is set to continue. Their first task is assigned: Hana must kill the weakened silver elephant he has prepared. A swift kick from Tsurugi sends the hesitant Hana hurtling towards her target. With a determined cry, Hana charges forward to face the colossal beast in battle. She activates her skills, her body glowing with enhanced strength, agility, and power. With a mighty roar, she slams her fist into the elephant with a massive impact. The enraged beast retaliates, its sharp tusk gruesomely piercing Hana's shoulder. As Sonya screams her sister's name, Hana's vision is flooded with level-up notifications. Tsurugi observes the fallen girl, realizing her body couldn't withstand her own enhanced strength. He grimly reflects on the inherent fragility of the human body, so easily broken. Using his ultimate cooking skill, he presents a recovery meal and orders Hana to eat it. He kneels over her, warning her that if she doesn't eat, she will surely die. Sonya watches with wide, worried eyes as Tsurugi holds the magical food over Hana. With a jolt of desperate resolve, Sonya snatches the life-saving meal from his hands. She frantically forces the food into her sister's mouth, pleading for her to eat quickly. Sonya continues to feed her, begging her to swallow the magical concoction. Ethereal smoke erupts from Hana's mangled shoulder as the healing magic takes effect. The grievous wound vanishes instantly, leaving both sisters stunned and speechless. Sonya stares at her sister's perfectly healed arm, asking in disbelief if it's truly fixed. Tsurugi tells Hana to eat the rest, admitting that misjudging her endurance was his mistake. Hana thinks her master is very kind, while Kanon watches with a look of exasperation. Kanon recalls her own training was far harsher, as she was forced to heal herself. Flustered, Kanon reminds Tsurugi that there are still monsters to fight as he offers her food. Tsurugi presents stat-boosting rice balls, telling the sisters to eat up and prepare to fight more. He points out Sonya's next opponent, a level 220 plant monster known as a Sulfuria. Sonya leaps into the fray, skillfully dispatching a swarm of smaller plant-like creatures. Hana cheers for her sister's newfound strength, while Sonya tells her to focus lest she get hurt. Sonya complains that it was terrible of Hana to get injured before she did. Kanon observes their flawless coordination, noting how perfectly in sync the sisters are. Sensing the number of monsters is abnormal, Tsurugi orders his servant Beals to investigate. Sonya continues her fierce battle, desperately hoping that nothing bad will happen. Her foot suddenly slips on the blood-soaked ground, sending her stumbling off balance. A massive wolf lunges from the side, its claws aimed directly at the fallen girl. Tsurugi screams Sonya's name, his eyes widening in a flash of pure horror. The sight triggers a deeply buried and traumatic memory of standing over a hospital bed. A black blur of motion streaks across the battlefield in a desperate, protective instinct. Sonya looks up in shock as her master suddenly appears before her, shielding her. She stares in confusion as Tsurugi stands between her and the lunging monster. Hana cries out his name as Tsurugi is sent tumbling to the ground by the attack. Kanon rushes forward, anxiously asking Hana if she is alright amidst the chaos. Sonya apologizes profusely to Tsurugi, blaming her own carelessness for his injury. Tsurugi gently pats her head, reassuring her that such a minor wound is nothing to him. He commands them to refocus, reminding them that there are still monsters left to fight. Later, after training, Sonya and Kanon are ecstatic at the sight of a delicious curry dinner. Tsurugi encourages them to eat their fill, while Hana also presents a dessert she prepared. Kanon proudly displays a massive, Kanon special, dessert, which Hana is eager to try. Tsurugi playfully teases Kanon, threatening to eat her leftovers if she can't finish it all. That night, Tsurugi stands guard, wondering what has his sentient sword so agitated. He peeks into the tent as Kakumu complains about his recent strange behavior towards the girls. Tsurugi dismisses the sword's concerns, but Kakumu insists their hearts are connected. The sword bluntly accuses him of having fallen for that girl at first sight. Tsurugi furiously denies the accusation, exclaiming he would never see her that way. He tries to rationalize his feelings, claiming she is merely an interesting puzzle to him. He attempts to calm himself by focusing on the quiet sounds of the sleeping girls. Suddenly, his eyes snap wide open as he senses a powerful, unknown presence. He bursts into the tent with his sword drawn, startling the girls from their sleep. Kanon asks what the strange presence is as Tsurugi rushes out into the night. He stands alone in the campsite, his senses on high alert for the mysterious intruder. A beautiful, ethereal woman with elven ears appears, surprised to find a human there. Tsurugi is shocked as his undead servant, Beals, materializes with a menacing grin. The elf looks down upon them, accusing them of being the ones ravaging her forest. Beals attempts to warn his master, but is silenced by the elf's overwhelming power. With a casual flick of her wrist, she sends the powerful lich flying into the darkness. Tsurugi realizes Beals wasn't defeated, but merely retreated into the shadows to evade danger. The elf scoffs, unimpressed by the power displayed by Tsurugi's formidable servant. She declares the Bolf Great Forest to be the sacred domain of the elves. She vows they will atone for the sin of defiling it with their lives, unleashing her magic. Tsurugi's eyes widen in alarm as a storm of sharp wind blades rushes toward him. With a defiant roar, he swings his katana, expertly deflecting the magical assault. Thrown back by the force, he demands to know the reason for the sudden attack. The elf looks on coolly, expressing surprise that he managed to block her spell. Tsurugi angrily shouts at her for ignoring him while he is trying to speak. He glances back, worried that his companions will be helpless if she targets them. He leaps away, drawing her attention and acknowledging the gravity of his supposed crime. He shouts that they were attacked by monsters first, and their actions were in self-defense. The elf looks down on him with disdain, dismissing him as a foolish human. She floats higher into the air, preparing to unleash an even more powerful attack. She offers to grant him a painless death as her magical power gathers around her. Tsurugi curses, realizing he cannot get close to her while she floats, protected by wind. His detailed appraisal skill reveals her identity, Antia, a level 415 ancient elf. He understands she is no ordinary elf, but a being from a far more ancient lineage. Antia senses his appraisal skill, impressed that he managed to land a hit on her. She wonders how to attack him, perplexed by his seemingly incomprehensible second life skill. Deciding she has had enough, she summons 2 massive tornadoes and commands him to die. Tsurugi stands his ground, bracing himself as the twin cyclones descend upon him. He grunts with effort, holding his sword firm against the incredible atmospheric pressure. The roaring tornadoes tear through the forest, ripping trees from the very earth. Sonya screams her master's name from the camp, terrified that helping is impossible. Kanon holds her back, insisting they must believe in their master and wait. Sonya looks on with tears of frustration and helplessness welling in her eyes. Caught in the storm's heart, Tsurugi pants heavily, preparing to endure the onslaught. Tsurugi grits his teeth, realizing he must find an opening in Antia's flawless defense. An invisible force slams into him, and he cries out in sudden, sharp pain. Lying defeated, he bitterly thinks this world has always been against him like this. Antia floats serenely in the air, watching him from above with disinterest. In the dirt, Tsurugi clenches his fist, whispering that she has finally pushed him too far. He explodes with power, vowing to crush them all with his wood and dark magic. From Antia's view, he is a small, distant figure rushing through a storm of magic. Unimpressed by his renewed assault, she calmly remarks that he is coming again. Tsurugi uses twisting tendrils of shadow to launch himself into a fierce aerial attack. A close-up on Antia's eye reveals she is calmly tracking his every move. She reaches out a hand, dismissing his desperate struggle as utterly futile. A spray of Tsurugi's dark blood spatters across her impassive face. Antia is suddenly surrounded by dozens of identical shadow clones, all attacking at once. She scoffs at the display, refusing to be fooled by such a cheap illusion. With a surge of power, she vows to destroy all the fakes simultaneously. The real Tsurugi appears behind her, his blade already resting on her shoulder. Antia gasps, her eyes wide with the shocking realization that she has been tricked. Tsurugi taunts her, saying if she defeats them all, then she will win. He throws her into the air with his magic, declaring that this is the end. Tsurugi lands gracefully as Antia's defeated form falls into the forest clearing. A notification for his wild intuition skill appears, warning him of a presence. He stands over the fallen elf, his long katana held at the ready. From the ground, Antia asks why he is hesitating to deliver the final blow. She knows he dealt a fatal wound, wondering if he realizes she has a second life. The dark wound on her chest is visible as she admits she never thought a human could win. She confirms her second life will save her, unless he beheads her right now. Tsurugi pauses, understanding that there must be a reason for this desperate battle. Antia sighs, lamenting that this could have been avoided if he had just listened. He responds to her complaint with a short, almost amused laugh. She realizes with regret that she has provoked someone incredibly dangerous. She formally introduces herself with ancient grace as Antia, the ancient elf. He gives his name, and Antia astonishes him by formally surrendering to him. From a tent, the girls overhear Antia's dramatic offer to be cooked as he pleases. Sonya charges out with an axe, vowing to fight for her master's safety. Antia playfully asks Tsurugi what he plans to do with his new captive. Kanon, Hana, and Sonya can only stare, completely baffled by the situation. Kanon timidly asks for an explanation of what is happening. Tsurugi complains that Antia still hasn't answered the questions he wanted to ask. Taking charge, Antia says she will explain the situation to his companions. Tsurugi summons his powerful undead servant, Beals, to give a report. the imposing Lich bows, confirming he has investigated the Bolf Great Forest. Antia asks if Beals discovered who was controlling the forest's monsters. Beals states there was no controller, only the faint traces of an unusual presence. Antia immediately identifies this lingering aura as belonging to the demon race. Beals clarifies there was no direct evidence, just a very faint demonic signature. He questions whether it is truly the demon race they are dealing with. Beals grows agitated, stating he must report to his master and dismissing the elf. Antia calmly suggests they both settle down and discuss the matter properly. She apologizes for the disturbance and invites them all to the hidden elven village. Tsurugi and the girls are stunned into silence by the sudden invitation. As they approach the village, a fellow elf welcomes Lady Antia home. Antia instructs her to prepare lodging and food for her important guests. Two small elf children run to Antia, joyfully calling out her name. The children ask if she defeated the evil ones, as Sonya notes how cute they are. Antia reassures the children, telling them monsters cannot enter the village. The two young elves cheer with bright smiles, happy to hear the good news. Antia leads the group onward, explaining it's rare for non-elves to be here. She says that elves are a reclusive race that rarely interacts with others. Her tone grows serious as she prepares to explain the reason for her concern. She fears that the demon race may be plotting something on a grand scale. Tsurugi adds that it's not just the elves, but humans and beastkin too. Antia agrees that if a single demon is causing this, the problem is immense. When Tsurugi asks for more details, she says the story goes back to the Age of Gods. She begins to recount a tale from thousands of years in the past. An illustration shows the ancient four races battling against the demon hordes. Antia explains that lately, the humans have been making suspicious movements. They are developing new weapons and their population is growing, upsetting the balance. She worries the other alliances will use this instability to expand their own power. Before the demons can act, she insists, the four races must unite once more. With a grim expression, she vows not to let a war like the past happen again. A close-up reveals the heavy weight of responsibility in her determined eyes. Later, after the long day, Kanon, Hannah, and Sonya are fast asleep. A small turtle swims peacefully in a stream in the tranquil elven village. Tsurugi sits alone on a balcony, brooding over the world's heavy problems. Antia finds him, repeating her plea for the four races to join forces. He looks away, coldly stating that their political struggles are not his concern. He sits in silence as the soft footsteps of another person approach him. A gentle voice calls out to him, simply saying, "Master?" He turns to see Kanon, now awake and wearing a simple white dress. She asks if something is on his mind, but he dismisses her concern. Kanon sits beside him, admitting she's overwhelmed by Antia's grand story. She asks if he plans to help Antia, but he looks away, saying nothing. With surprising insight, Kanon states that he is not from this world. She recalls legends of summoned heroes, and a rumor of one who was cast out. She looks at him directly, asking if he is a hero from another world. She then realizes that if he understands, he must not consider himself a hero. He confesses he was deemed useless and thrown into the heart of the forest. Kanon is horrified, asking why anyone would commit such an inhumane act. Tsurugi clenches his fist, his voice tight as he says it was hell. He remembers being torn apart by monsters, yet somehow managing to survive. His face is a mask of pain as he explains he lives only for revenge. Kanon's voice chokes as she begins to argue against his grim declaration. She insists he saved her, the sisters, and the people of Algria. With tears in her eyes, she declares that to her, he is a true hero. She takes his hand, her own trembling as she holds it tightly. She vows with fierce conviction that she will never forgive those who hurt him. Tsurugi looks down at her, stunned, as she leans against him, sobbing. Sonya suddenly rushes in, hugging Kanon and shouting she won't forgive them either. Tsurugi is surprised to see her, and Sonya admits she was listening in. Hannah and Antia appear, offering their own support for his quest for vengeance. Kanon stands resolute, declaring she will follow Tsurugi, setting aside talk of heroes. Tsurugi is stunned by her loyalty, while Antia smirks at the unfolding scene. The ancient elf thoughtfully considers Kanon's firm and unwavering decision. Hannah playfully teases Tsurugi about his growing harem, making him blush furiously. The group enjoys a brief, cheerful moment together on a bridge in the elven village. Antia's expression turns serious as she contemplates the hero summoning phenomenon. A strange premonition washes over her, an unsettling feeling from the forest. A colossal, stone-like object plummets from the sky, shattering the ground below. With a thunderous impact, the massive foot of a giant stomps down. In a peaceful clearing, Antia informs the group that a meal has been prepared. A young elf bows respectfully, stating that their meal has been arranged. Sonia and Hannah are thrilled, eagerly anticipating the taste of an elven meal. Antia graciously invites her guests to eat as much as they desire. An enormous, roasted insect is presented to them as the village's prized delicacy. Tsurugi's companions stare in utter revulsion at the monstrous dish before them. Young elves encourage Antia to eat heartily to prepare for her coming journey. Antia explains she is merely going to scout the movements of the human race. Tsurugi notes human lifespans are short, promising to handle things in her absence. Kanon timidly gets her master's attention, her voice barely a whisper. She confesses that she could never bring herself to eat an insect. The Beastkin sisters agree, saying they'd only eat it if they were starving. An elf cheerfully offers the meal, recalling how Tsurugi ate anything in the forest. Tsurugi sighs, accepting that there is simply no other choice. He offers to cook a meal himself as a gesture of thanks for their hospitality. His party protests, insisting that a guest should not have to cook. Tsurugi summons a giant, crab-like beast, calling it a local gift from a chef. The elves are shocked, saying its shell is too hard for anyone to break. Tsurugi just smiles, confident that his dismantling a skill is all that's needed. He draws a small, beautifully crafted blade from its sheath. With an incredible leap, he unleashes a whirlwind of slashes upon the monster. The creature's impenetrable armor is instantly carved into perfect portions. The onlooking elves are rendered speechless, their eyes wide with disbelief. They wonder aloud what just happened, questioning the nature of his power. Tsurugi lands with a grin, announcing that he is not finished yet. In a final flourish, he presents a magnificent, perfectly cooked feast. Two elves sample the dish, amazed by its rich flavor and delicious sauce. Another pair marvels at the taste, having never imagined such a way to eat. The youngest elves happily dig in, enjoying the warm and savory meal. Kanon and Sonia praise Tsurugi's incredible cooking skills as they eat. Tsurugi remarks that the elven food, though grand, can't compare to his own cooking. He critiques the insect, noting it was overcooked and would be better medium rare. Hannah asks Tsurugi what he plans to do after their special training concludes. Sonia explains the summoned heroes were taken to the Radcrete Empire in the south. Hannah outlines a safer, albeit much longer, route to reach their destination. Kanon and Sonia notice Tsurugi's hesitation, sensing his lack of knowledge. Kanon gently asks if he is perhaps unaware of this world's geography. Tsurugi tries to save face, claiming he was just about to consider it. Antia smiles warmly, saying it can't be helped and she understands. She unfurls a large scroll, revealing a detailed map of the entire continent. The map displays a vast landmass, divided into three major political powers. Antia points out their current location relative to the human kingdoms. Tsurugi quietly wonders what he must do to reach the Radcrete Empire. Hannah suggests a route through several allied kingdoms to ensure their safety. Tsurugi's gaze darkens as he remembers Ichino's was sold to the Luxentail kingdom. Hannah notes that the Templeton kingdom is where humans and beastkin coexist. Tsurugi turns to Kanon for her thoughts, and she agrees with the proposed plan. With a nod, Tsurugi settles the matter, deciding to follow their suggested route. Suddenly, a strange energy crackles, putting Tsurugi and Antia on high alert. A panicked elf runs towards them, shouting that something terrible has appeared. She points a trembling finger at the sky above them. A fiery object, like a falling meteor, descends from the clouds. The entire village looks up in shock and fear at the approaching doom. Kanon watches it hurtle towards them, wondering how they can possibly stop it. Tsurugi watches grimly as Kanon's eyes fill with steely determination. Kanon vows to destroy it with her magic, and Antia offers to lend her strength. Kanon plans to use the powerful synergy of fire and wind magic. She raises her staff, unleashing a powerful spell to pulverize the threat. Antia adds her own magic, creating a massive vortex to aid Kanon's spell. Their combined power erupts in a massive explosion as it strikes the meteor. Kanon cheers, believing they have succeeded, but Tsurugi knows better. The meteor is seen cracking, but it has not been destroyed. A powerful voice from above declares that it has not been shattered. The massive object breaks apart, raining down a storm of deadly debris. Tsurugi quickly erects a barrier, shielding his companions from the falling rocks. He looks up in disbelief at the object now visible through the smoke. The largest fragment is not a rock, but something that resembles a mountain. Sonia expresses her relief that the object didn't crush the village. Hannah comforts a shaken Kanon, saying nothing good would have come of it. Antia roars in fury, vowing to never forgive this desecration of her forest. Staring at the crater, she whispers the name of the ancient culprit, Crafton. A colossal figure rises from the dust, his shadow looming over the party. The being is revealed to be the progenitor of the ancient giants. Antia furiously repeats her vow, declaring she will never forgive this trespass. The giant, Crafton, stands fully revealed, his immense figure radiating power. He grins, his ancient power a palpable threat. Tsurugi and his companions brace themselves, sensing the immense danger. Crafton laughs heartily, greeting Antia and mocking her unchanging, small form. He scoffs at her for daring to face him again, knowing her power is specialized. He asks her purpose, noting a great power has been displaced in the forest. Crafton feigns ignorance, claiming he has no idea what she means. Antia furiously demands to know why he has returned to this continent. He smirks, saying he came to check on her after sensing her presence vanish. She angrily accuses him of being the one who took her first life. He grabs her, snarling that this will be the last time she sees him. With a roar, he slams her down toward the earth with devastating force. His eye widens in shock as his powerful blow is suddenly stopped. Tsurugi has intercepted the attack, his katana blocking the giant's mighty arm. He flips gracefully onto Crafton's arm, completely neutralizing the attack. Crafton stares in confusion, wondering what this monk-like being is. Tsurugi stands defiantly, declaring that he is the one who took Antia's second life. Antia asks Tsurugi if he truly intends to be this giant's opponent. Tsurugi roars that he despises powerful figures who senselessly trample the weak. Crafton is shocked, questioning Tsurugi's faith in Antia's claims. Tsurugi scoffs dismissively, telling the giant not to make such boasts. Tsurugi appears on his shoulder, mocking his inability to gauge his opponent's strength. He offers to spare the giant if he tearfully apologizes for damaging the forest. The giant seethes with anger, calling the young man a mere brat. Crafton throws a massive punch, roaring that Tsurugi must not value his life. Tsurugi summons his shadow clones, unleashing a technique he calls Mjolnir. 3 shadow clones dart around Crafton, who swings wildly to fend them off. Antia urges the others to fall back, warning them about their master's intentions. Kanon watches with deep concern, whispering her master's name in worry. Perched on his back, Tsurugi nonchalantly tells the giant to be careful. Enraged, Crafton demands to know why Tsurugi keeps dodging an honorable fight. Tsurugi coolly states that the giant's brute force attacks will never connect. His sentient blade, Kakumu, notes the giant's lack of intelligence. Kakumu urges him to wield it freely as Tsurugi strikes at the giant. The blade scrapes harmlessly against Crafton's tough skin with a sharp sound. Crafton swats him away, boasting that a human's blade is utterly useless against him. Tsurugi is blasted through the woods, deflecting a barrage of powerful shockwaves. He barely manages to block a direct, bone-shattering punch from the furious giant. Crafton snarls in frustration, telling him to stop his incessant, nimble movements. Tsurugi lands a solid blow, declaring he is different from a simple brute. The impact connects with stunning force, staggering the colossal ancient giant. Crafton glares, growling that he already told him such attacks are ineffective. Tsurugi lands gracefully, calmly acknowledging that he is already aware of that. He calmly confirms that he understands the situation perfectly. His expression turns deadly serious as he announces his first finishing move. The giant's eyes widen, shocked by the sudden declaration of a special attack. A savage grin spreads across Crafton's face. He's glad Tsurugi is finally serious. He unleashes Hellfire Adamant Slash, a cataclysmic blast of fiery energy. The ground shatters and erupts from the sheer force of the powerful impact. Antia, Kanon, and the others are blasted backward by the devastating shockwave. Antia looks on in absolute shock, exclaiming, "How could this be?" Kanon and the Beastkin sisters stare in disbelief, whispering their master's name. Crafton laughs, amazed Tsurugi survived his own Buchikamashi attack. He properly introduces himself as Crafton, progenitor of giants, and asks for his name. Tsurugi calmly states his name and declares himself to be a human. Intrigued, Crafton asks about the source of the young human's immense power. He wonders aloud if humanity now has 2 ancients, since Tima's is dead. Tsurugi denies this, insisting he is just a genuine, ordinary human being. Crafton scoffs, deciding it doesn't matter since Tsurugi will die here regardless. He declares that Tsurugi will regret making him truly serious about this fight. Tsurugi stands ready, bracing himself for the giant's full-powered assault. An invisible shockwave strikes Tsurugi before the giant's fist even connects. He realizes in shock that the impact preceded the actual physical blow. He is sent flying, crashing violently into the ground with a guttural cry. Tsurugi lies in a bloody heap while the giant stands over his defeated form. Dizzy and wounded, Tsurugi coughs up a spray of blood onto the ground. Getting up, he admits his guard was down, preventing him from blocking that attack. Crafton is surprised he can still stand, but dismisses it as a pointless struggle. He states that no matter how much Tsurugi struggles, the outcome will not change. Tsurugi smirks defiantly, declaring that his warm-up has only just finished. His expression is one of pure, unyielding determination as he prepares to fight. The giant laughs heartily, impressed by the defiant brat's smart mouth. Crafton lunges for the final blow, declaring that this overwhelming power is the end.